United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray?
Present.
Trustee Caprio?
Present.
Trustee Rogers? Present. Trustee Sweet? Present. Trustee Knight-Petrarchi? Trustee Berrien?
Present.
Mayor Yukich?
Present. Okay, this meeting that I called is to address the sports complex one more time. I know some are for, some are against, but I'd like to kind of run down a whole bunch of things on this, see what you guys think. And at the end of the day, we'll figure out if we're going to be doing this or not, because I've got over 2.5 years invested in this of my life, and for me, I'm just getting tired. But the sports complex that we've been talking about is New Hampshire. All right, are there any amendments to the agenda? No. Public comment when they don't want to be able to talk about, so what are we going to talk about?
Yeah, I think it's just going.
Okay. All right, so it's discussion of sports. Thank you. What we want to do is we want to get the baseball, softball, soccer, lacrosse, volleyball, hockey, and anything else that we can put in there that we can attract people from other areas to come. Now, the other reason that I've been wanting this so bad, and some of the people that are also in this room have thought the same thing, is our town is not collecting any municipal tax at all. So the money that comes in here is strictly by sales tax. So we don't have as many businesses as we would like here. I'm sure more are going to be coming, but it still doesn't make us a destination with this thing would. I'm looking at the sales tax that we're losing right now. You know, just even with 159th Street pollution. But now the state's also giving an our sales tax. Now they're going to start taking 1%, which we don't know what that's going to get up to. Then the state is also taking money away from the state's income tax. And where are we down now? You mentioned before it's $164,000.
Yes, we did forecast significantly lower next year. I think the per capita rate is about $87 to $89 per resident, which is down almost $10 per resident over the past few years.
And we're working on getting residents inside the village right now. We're looking at a home builder that's coming in. I think we have to sit down with them sometime next week. It would bring in single family, it would bring in townhouses, front loaded, back loaded. It's definitely a start. So my point on this is pretty simple. We need something to draw people in, whether it be from just this area or from far out of state. If we have the traveling baseball, if we have travel anything, they're going to come from all different states here. If they're more than an hour and a half away, they're going to stay. So it also gives us an opportunity to have a hotel come in here. We've talked to hotels, and they did say that if we can get enough people in here, they'll put a hotel up. So we're looking for the hotel to come in, more restaurants can come in, we have more retail that can come in. I've talked to the Silver Cross, and they said that that would be very nice for them too, because now it's bringing in business that normally wouldn't be coming into them. And with what we're planning to do with the home rule, it would also benefit us, because now it's helping all the rest of the businesses that are here, bringing more people, the other businesses are going to be doing better. It'll bring pretty much what we're looking for to accommodate what we're losing. It also will help us bring in it'll bring in people that are going to be put in buildings. We need it for the schools. We need it definitely for us, because our biggest tax is the schools. And I'm figuring if we bring this thing in and we have people coming in here every single South Cherry weekend, all the money that comes from commercial goes to the schools with no burden on the schools, so maybe they can start lowering what they're taking in, or at least not adding any more to the residents that are here. So there's an upside to all this, and it should pay for itself. I mean, I can't guarantee this would work, but everywhere that I've gone to that either has a baseball, has a soccer, has a lacrosse, especially the hockey, because I was involved in it for 11 years, it makes money. And there's nothing else that this village has working with it to bring the money to us. So if we can get this thing passed, and what my proposition was for now, we sat down with people that are involved in it. We took a ride down to Jacksonville, Illinois, and looked at one place that has 6 fields. I never saw the books, but he had told us he did a little more. He did in the high $3 millions for his season that he has. The season starts very early. It ends, I think he said in October.
It was cold and they were playing that day. I remember that. So. It starts early and probably ends late.
But and then we talked to the mayor that was there too, and he said it's definitely benefited the city. There are a lot more restaurants because when you drive back out of it, my daughter used to work in Jacksonville at a school for the blind, and you're in the middle of nowhere. Now these baseball fields that they have there too, what would you say, they're 15 miles off the highway?
Yeah.
Maybe 10, but it was a distance. And he said he's bringing over more than $3 million. They don't have a downtown, nor do we. But I mean, that's also something that could benefit this whole village. We're right off of 355. We're not that far away from 80. We're right by 55. So traveling here would be very simple. If we can get this thing going off of 159th and put an entrance either on 159th or maybe 159th and 151st, so we can get off at 143rd and do the same thing. But this will bring money into the town. And we start out small, then we go bigger. But the baseball that we went to see in Jacksonville, he has 6 fields that he does in. And he said that you don't have to start out that big because until you get your feet wet, you're not going to have that amount of people coming in to use it. It probably would take a year and a half to get this thing going. But at least if we do, then it starts paying for itself. Then you're getting the additional sales tax to where we can start doing things that we are not able to right now. Because I mean, for the park, we're short on money when you look at it. I mean, we're doing everything we possibly can to get this thing finished up. But we're going to get to a point where we're going to be borrowing money that will be hard to pay back because we don't have any money coming in from something to make this thing work. So if you could get this thing to where it's like a neighborhood. I mean, the downtown is, I don't know if we could go to that extreme because they have a lot more. But then we've got the park here. It's just something that I know would work. I have not talked to one person yet that has told me it's a dumb idea or they would not want any part of it. Every business I've talked to said it's great. Every resident I've talked to, all the villages around us said it would be great. And it would definitely benefit us first, and it should benefit everyone around us. So I figured if we started out with 8 fields, and the other thing that we talked about when we were down in Jacksonville, and now I've seen it from on my own, is the biggest cost here is the turf. They figure it's going to be, with everything, probably all in $1 million one field, if you want full turf. We're not quite sure of the price because we're also told it would be around $798,000, but we don't know what the infrastructure would be on it. So if we started out with 8 fields and just did the infield in turf, and then the outside in the grass, because like the guy in Jacksonville said, they want it on the infield because you want home plate, you want the bases, you want everything clear so there's no water standing. So this way it drains down and keep the games going, and the games will never stop. And the people out in the outfield, I mean, even professional, they still play with it if it's not a downpour. If it's downpour, the only thing they worry about covering is just the infield. So if we could get that thing done, we could probably drop the price down to $400,000 a field. So now instead of putting out $8 million for 8 fields, we can get away with maybe putting out $3.5 to maybe $4 million. I know it's still a lot of money, but, you know, with the strategic planning that we had and everyone was talking about, we still have to have a way to bring some money into the village. I would never put a property tax on, but, I mean, we're losing out on a lot. So, I'd like to hear some of the, if you have questions, I'd love to answer it if I can. And if you have issues, I'd like to hear what it is, so this way at least we can find out what's best for the community.
Is this an example where you just, what it was, instead of charging for soccer?
Well-
And in addition to, it's also baseball.
Right, you can do that. It just depends on how the seasons overlap, because there is room to put at least a soccer field on every field that we did have, or a lacrosse field. But if we did the turf the way we want to do it right now, that would be on grass, and they did say that the
So
soccer.
this would be grass and this would be turf.
Everything from the infield to the shortstop in would be turf. So you'd never have an issue with calling a game because it was the infield was getting
Just
less.
trying to picture that.
I'll chime in. We absolutely need an alternate revenue source in this community to be able to do things we want to do. We're obviously not going to do it through sales tax at this point. We've been surviving through that, but I don't see that being our long-term revenue source. We have to make it clear that this is going to be operated as a business, if that's what we're going to do, if we end up going with this plan. Meaning that it's going to be a rental facility for all. Land is huge. If we, you know, we got to figure out a way to acquire or get the land and get off the ground on this thing. The management of it is going to be extremely important for its success. I totally support the idea. I love the idea. Are we capable of pulling it off is what I guess, without using better words. And then I just think we need a better grasp on the field costs. But, you know, I've talked to you a couple of times. And I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great revenue source. I think it will attract outsiders to the community. It will also attract other businesses and hotel potentials once 159th Street's complete. It doesn't guarantee it, but it definitely is an attraction. The only negative I really see is the ability to get it out of the ground. And if we can satisfy some of these things, I think we can get it out of the ground. But we as a village can't do it. We need professionals who actually do this to help us do it, in my mind.
Right. Well, I didn't plan on hearing us do this.
No, I know you don't, but I'm just stating my point.
And the other thing that I didn't mention is, I don't even care about owning it. I don't care if the Bill Joneses. I don't care if Joe Schmo wants to come in here and buy it. It's still a revenue source for us that we don't have. Sales tax is still going to come in no matter what. Property tax is still going to come in no matter what for everyone that comes in here to the village. The sales tax alone should benefit us immensely. But with ownership, most fields you go to right now, there's a head charge for everyone that comes in during a game. And even times that I don't remember if it was $5 or $10 a head. It was low.
I think I would have been shocked if it was 10, so it must have been more than 10.
Yeah, there were a lot of numbers thrown around that day. But even if you did $5 a head, maybe it was Christine, because at one time she said she took the girls somewhere, and it was $10 a head, they even charged her for 10 to be. So then you have the sales that come into the fields. If you look at the fields, now this is we haven't had these plans made up for us. This is just an idea. 4 fields would be in a grouping. So we'd have 2 of them back to back. We'd have room on the other side to do 8 more if we wanted to do them. But why talk about spending money that we don't have to worry about right now? Let's make sure this thing works. It has, when we talked to the gentleman down in Jacksonville, he said, if you build this thing, you have to make sure you're getting it to where you get older kids coming down to play, because that's when you start getting the people who come out and take a look at other people playing baseball, whatever, and they see if they can scout them for college or for pro. So it's something that I know would work. What I would like to do is, if you are in agreement to look into this, I would like to see if I can ship some of you to a couple different places. I still want to go to more, but everything that we wanted to go to over the winter was closed. Ice arenas aren't a problem. The ice arena would be the most expensive, but I think I do have a group now that will come up with the money, but they're going to own it. But they're still a few $1 million away from what they're looking at to get this thing done. But like I said, it's the most expensive to build. I'm telling you what, I was involved in hockey with my son. I don't think there was a weekend that went by that if we were traveling and I didn't spend $1,500 for that weekend between the gasoline, the hotel, food, tournament fees, and it was a lot of fun. So, like I said before, and I said it to this whole group, if this is not what you're looking for, I'm fine with it. But then we need someone to come up with something that's going to make this a destination to where we have something besides sales tax coming in to pay for this. So back to what we were saying, I mean, Carlos said some things. Is there anyone else that has any?
I still have reservations on it, to be honest with you. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that when we first talked about this, it was almost a split. It was, half was coming from a private source or a few private sources, and then half would be coming from the village, almost a matching grant, if you will. And at that point, it wasn't a deal for my taste, but it made sense that, you take advantage of that money that's out there and that opportunity that's out there before it passes. And since that's kind of evaporated, for me, it doesn't all add up still, because it's still now a wish. It's, we're talking about all this economic impact, and that would be great if that comes our way. But businesses have been very successful with avoiding this, and I think there are underlying issues why they're avoiding this, which we're still going to have in our, in our zoning, our ordinances, things like that. We're still going to have that at the end of the day. So if we were to put this in, say we pull the trigger tomorrow and start building this thing, I'm not necessarily certain. There will be some economic benefit, but I don't necessarily know that it's going to be all the economic benefit. You had mentioned hotels and how a hotel had told you that if we get, make this a destination, that they'd be happy to build here. Well, Blackboard has a hotel slated to be built, and there's nothing there. So, how did they? And again, I'm not saying we need to look at other communities and be like them. What's their secret and everything? I think we need to look more within and say, what's lacking? We have a great community. We have a lot of land. We have a lot of good residents. We have a high per capita income. We have a high education level and everything. But for some reason, they're still skillfully avoiding us. The one thing I always point to is that we're aging, and yet Walgreens wanting to come here. So, I get it. The economic impact by making it a destination. You trigger the possibility that we can, unlock some of that and get that potential. But I'm worried that we have a lot of that potential already built on our edges, and they might just say, we'll just stick with that. Like you said, in Jacksonville, it was a nice facility. It was private. If Tom Lenz, came through that door and said he wanted to partner up with the village, or he wanted to put in a private enterprise, and would we help him by either securing the land, things like that? Absolutely. We had a private vendor coming in here, I'd be all for that. It starts to fall apart for me, though, when it's all on us, because to me, there's a very long list of things that we'd like to accomplish in the village, and we're saying that this one is going to almost go to the top of that list, and yet the benefits to the residents are not really apparent, not right off of that anyhow. So, I have more to say, I'm sure as time goes on, but let's hear what everybody else says.
I didn't touch that point, but I agree with you. I don't want to fully finance this thing as a village either. That's not my mindset. Your other point of why businesses aren't coming, I've thought the same thing. I've thought why they're not coming, but I also agree. I also think it's density. We have nobody here. We have some people here. We're all here, but there's not enough here to attract them to want to be here. I don't know. Do you feel that way from a CED perspective? What are businesses telling you? What are you hearing out there that the reason why they don't want to?
Yeah, I think that's a contributing factor. I think right now the biggest issue is our biggest commercial corridor is under construction.
Right.
And so that's a pause on where the most likely new businesses will be going. I use Route 30 in Lenox and Frankfurt as the example, that since Route 30 was done, that stretch has developed at a pace that wasn't going to develop to that extent prior to that. So that's not the only thing, but I think the minor things that are contributing that I think we've been addressing and continue to address, I think that's the biggest thing right now. And I've said before, even at this committee of the whole, I think when 159th Street is done, or when it's for sure there's a timetable that it is, everybody knows it's going to complete, I think that begins to go from there. I think that's the biggest issue in this town, but certainly there are other contributing factors.
To address, Keith, out some of the things you said, the hotel went into Lockport, because Lockport already has a pad board for it, it's ready for it. It's going to also be an extremely small hotel. It's not going to be a large hotel at all. We don't do anything to attract anyone to come on here. We don't. If anything, we chase a lot of people away with the restrictions that we have. And I'm not looking to change anything in the village. All I'm trying to do is let's get something here that's going to bring the people out. I mean, we have really nothing to even offer our residents here. We've got a park that we're working on, and I think we're doing an absolutely wonderful job on it. But our taxes, it's not that they're high, but they're still up there. We've got a water situation that's horrible. So there's a lot of things that makes it to where people are afraid to come out. Our zoning and our restrictions, there are. A lot of them are over the top, but we've also been working on some of them to make it a little bit easier. And that's what we want to do.
What you're saying about that, that we don't have a lot for the residents, and this won't be for the residents. I mean, the economic bounce that we could get, and I stress the could, and that's where I'm struggling, is on the good, I mean, it does make sense if everything dovetails and falls together nicely. I see the possibility of it. Don't get me wrong, I do see the possibility. It's just that I also see the downside of it. If it doesn't materialize that way, I think you're right. It will draw people in, and it will at least probably cover itself. But if we don't get that economic bump from that, if that does go out to our surrounding communities, then we're sitting here with still something that our residents can't use, can't enjoy, can't benefit from, and
but
maybe they have an indirect benefit.
They do have an indirect.
Right.
It is going to bring. It's going to bring more here. It's going to bring more businesses here because if you have, let's say, I don't know exactly number-wise what it was for some of the tournaments that we went to, and I never went to the baseball ones, but hockey. But at times there were over 70 teams that would come in to play because you'd have all the age groups. So now with the 70, you got to figure there's parents, there's brothers and sisters that they can't leave at home, so they got to bring them with them. Right there's people that you got to feed. You have to have a roof over their head. Most of the time when we went away for the tournaments, we got 2 rooms. We got one for the kids and one for us because you almost had to get something for the kids. They stunk to 7th heaven after playing a hockey game, and then they bring the equipment in there. Plus they're all noisy. But it brings something to where you're drawing money into the village that we're not drawing into. So the benefit to the residents is we can do more. The more money that we bring in, the more sales tax that we get going, it's more that we can do for the residents that we can do now. And I think we do a wonderful job. But, there's still some things that are missing. And we're still one of the youngest villages that I know of anywhere around here. So my thing is, we can sit back and wait and see if this happens or that happens, if this happens. But, I like the idea of being in control of my own destiny. If everyone's just sit around and wait till it happens, it'll never happen. Look at all the places that have been around here. Tinley Park looked into one. New Lennox looked into one. Lamont looked into one. They just didn't want to do it. And that was pretty much the same thing. They're worried about the money that they do spend. That's why I figured if we did something, we went smaller, and we went from, let's say, 4 to 5 million rather than doing 8 million, get this thing going. It will bring other people in here to invest in it because they're going to see that it's a positive thing. If any of you did any kind of travel with your kids, you know what I'm talking about. The parents try to keep the kids as busy as possible, and travel's the best way to do it. You've got control. They're learning something. They're involved with other kids. You get to know other people. You're traveling. There's just so much that does benefit it. And do I agree with Trustee Varian on 159th Street? I think that once it does open up, I think it will be wonderful. But it still comes down to the fact, unless we have something very special that's coming in here, why would people come to Elmer Glen to go to a restaurant when they go to Orland and go to any single solitary one that they want? Or even up in New Lenox right now. You know, there's nobody that has this. We have an opportunity. And I think it's something that should definitely be looked into more than what we have been looking into it. And as for someone coming in and parking in on it, I honestly thought it would be a pretty easy idea to do. And I did talk to a lot of people, and I had some people say, I can get you the money, but you have to do this with it. So for someone to just come out and give us $5 million or $10 million or $20 million, it's not going to happen, and it's not the responsibility to do it. It's our responsibility to do it. What we're trying to do is, it's not for us, it's for everyone that's here. That's probably the one thing that I don't understand the most is, I don't think there's one politician in here that's in it for the politics. We're in it to make things better, not to make it worse. And, you know, sometimes, yeah, you gotta take a chance. If we did something like this, that's why I figured it at a lower scale too. If God forbid, and no one can tell whether this is going to work or not, but I haven't seen one fail yet, unless the people that have failed. You know, they've got an ice rink right now out in Norland. They're not doing anything with it, so all the teams want to leave there. If you bring something that people are happy to go to and they call their home, I don't see an issue with it. Like I said, if we work right off of 355, we didn't have the opportunity with the property that we do have here, and like Carla said, the property is still up in the air. That's why I'm not saying, you know, I want 100%, yeah, we're going to do this, because I can't tell you we're going to do it yet until we find out with the property. I gave up on calling about it because we weren't moving anywhere. And trying to meet with people, sit down with them, and not being able to tell them everything, all the questions that we're looking for, kind of gets old. And we really can't, you know, I don't want to spend any money from the village looking into this stuff and doing the studies if we're all afraid to make this move. I wouldn't bring it up if I didn't think it was something, and I wouldn't push it as hard as I've been pushing it if I thought that this was something that wouldn't work. You got to give it a chance. If you just take a look at what's around us right now, when you go for the soccer season over on the other side of Cedar, that's wall-to-wall people. Wall-to-wall people every single solitary weekend. Now you've got them coming in to pay to play here. And as for, like you said before, with benefit, that's where it would benefit. If we're pulling in that much more money, you got to figure, you have all the advertising fees you can get. You have the sales that you can do right on top of the property. We do have one group that said that they'd be more than happy to put an indoor ball field in, not a full ball field, but they have, what was it, Brian? Was it 100,000 square foot?
I don't know, it was 880.
But they'll put it in, wouldn't cost us a penny. Now it's even no matter what, it's still bringing new people in because they're training kids on how to do some things. So I think the benefits would be wonderful. I have, like I said, I haven't seen anything fail. The one out in Indiana right now is what, 440 acres, and they have 30-some baseball fields. They have, so I mean, it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And we're in Chicago where there is none. The only one that's close to it would be Rockford. We're right next to Chicago. It would bring in people. It would bring people just that want to come down here and see the city or whatever the case may be. I think if we don't do this, if you guys decide tonight, and we're definitely done tonight, I'm not going to push this anymore because I just feel like I'm burning hours of my life away that I can never get back. But, and it's not a threat. I've told you guys before, I think if this is what you don't want, then that's fine. But you come up with a way that we can get some people in there and make some money besides sales tax, because we can't rely on it. We can't rely on the state right now for anything. We don't know what they're going to do. Every time I listen to anyone out of the state, they're having more and more problems. They're eating into our sales tax. Now they're going to start eating into our home rule sales tax. They're eating into our state income tax. And it's not, the state isn't getting any better. You know, I would like to not have to rely on the state for anything. I'd rather rely on everyone that's sitting here and the people that are in this village working together to get this thing done. So,
I'm not looking to argue with you, but isn't the only economic benefit we're going to get from this sales tax?
no.
I mean, what other benefit? Well, we're going to get rooms and hotels and all those types of things that are going to bring in all the taxes for us. So, You just said that if we didn't want to do this, we had to find some other way of bringing in money without sales tax, without relying on sales tax. I mean, what we're basically relying on is sales tax. With the economic benefit for this, if this thing washes, if you
this
know,
thing
if
washes,
we put 5 million in, if it generates 5 million to cover its nut, great. You know, we're not dipping in our own pocket, but the only economic benefit is going to be, you know, having a bevy of Chili's and Applebee's and Holiday Inns and things like that, which are only going to generate sales tax or maybe a use tax or a hotel tax or whatever from the room. So, I mean, basically, we are talking about the same thing.
Right,
I think
but why would they come here if they got no, you know, when we went down to Vegas a few years ago for the convention of bringing businesses, hotels, everything that we did, they told us they wouldn't even look at us because what do you got to offer? What they had told us, they wanted a guarantee of 25,000 rooms a year. You tell me how I can even come close to that with having nothing here. Really, if you stop and think about it, you have de novos for the banquet facility. We're just talking on the line. You have the hospital, which isn't far away, and the hospital right there for all the people that are going through treatments and don't want to stay in a hotel because the insurance companies won't pay for it. They would stay in they wouldn't be able to stay in a hotel. And funeral homes. Other than that, what do you have coming in from out of town? So why would a hotel come in here? Because there's really nothing whatsoever to offer. You know, you look at Orland, how big it is, and for everything it has, it's got the one hotel. And they just got to redo it. Mokina's getting a hotel right now. Again, it's a small one. New Lenox. And New Lenox too. They've been bringing stuff in, but they're paying to bring it in.
Tinley just broke ground on one for like 183 rooms, I think it was.
Yeah.
And again, that's probably why we see the dearth of them in or Mokina is because Tinley has the lion's share of the rooms because of the world and because of they have convention center too, right?
Yes, they do. That's what one of the hotels is in. But here, when I did travel with my son, you wanted to stay as close to it as possible because you didn't want to go driving. Because I'll tell you what, on a lot of these things, there's some drinking that goes on. Sometimes a lot of drinking. I don't want to drive anywhere afterwards. I want to be able to stay right here. I'd like to get a hotel to stay right on the property. They have the hotel build it as it's centered around sports. You know, the kids get done with baseball, anything they get done with, you get back to the hotel, they still want to do it. You know, for my kids, it was always shitty hockey. They'd be in the halls playing hockey. Get a hotel to come in there and actually have a room set up for it, so nothing does get destroyed. We can make this such a destination, it'd be ridiculous. Then if you can do that, you can also make this the downtown. It's the same thing for restaurants. If you have all these people here, they don't want to be driving all over trying to find a place. You know, everyone wants to get in the car and they want to, or just get out of there, go sit somewhere for dinner. You'd have the restaurants filling all the way around it. You'd have retail. You'd have the sports stores coming in because no matter what, I don't care what sport you play. They either lost, they left their shoes at home, their mitt at home, the hockey sticks broke, but I bought 7 when I was out of town. They're $350, $400 for a hockey stick. But they had the stores right there. So there was a benefit to all this, and you're bringing people in here to see what we're doing, and you never know. They might decide to move in Illinois. Although they think they're crazy, but... So all we're trying to do here is give us the benefit. Everyone else was afraid to do this. I don't want to be afraid to do this. I lowered it down to 8 because I was told by the group that wants to put the building here, we were told by times, we don't need that many fields right now. Let's get something going. And then let it feed off of itself. I really honestly believe that this would work. I haven't been beating this drum so long. So
I helped my sister around for 10 years playing travel softball all over the country. This would work. I know it. I have no doubt. I know I don't have a voice, but it came out anyway.
Well, Jack, can you answer that? So the major indirect benefit to the residents of the community is we wouldn't have to use the 3-letter word, institute a municipal tax. Because that is, I mean, we're gonna be running low on funds at some point to produce everything we want out there, to produce services that we need for this community. So we either need to hooper it off the pot on a tax or do something else to be able to thrive into the future. Am I incorrect in my statement? Well,
No, you're not. You're correct. And that's, we were going to put together a comprehensive revenues document. The board could look at it and choose what, how to raise revenue, preferably with pass-through, not 100% direct to residents. But yeah, if you build this, you'll have residual benefits.
If it's successful.
No doubt about it, you would. In a lot of communities, when you do something like that, you can I don't think a single speck of dirt would be considered blighted at Homer Glen. But, a lot of times you redistrict it and so that you can actually earmark the additional revenue back to that project. That's something we would have a hard time doing with this, is to really measure. It goes into a pot.
Well, the same thing we were doing at home rule, that when we first did it, which was before I was mayor, when we decided to borrow the money for it, we put the stipulations. This is where it went. It went to 159th Street, it went to the parks, and it went to Illinois American Water. Those are the only three places that we have spent the money on. So,
Right, here's the problem though, is that, they're free to build a restaurant or whatever, anywhere, that it's approved. The board would have to get their sales tax numbers so that we could track it. You know what I mean? It requires additional work for the board to be able to identify that additional revenue stream. And some businesses may not be interested in doing that, but it's just one of those things.
I didn't hear that last part. So what might not be interested?
Well, that's confidential information. They have to get a waiver from that business to release that confidential information. So to do an accounting of it correctly, you've got to get waivers from everybody.
Right, but I mean, the sales tax, no matter what, we still have to be paid.
It's going to go into Homer Glen's bank account, but we may not know,
We can't sequester out one individual retailer, so somebody could extrapolate from that what their sales were.
Right. Well, you should get a waiver.
Right, I'm saying you can't release that without the waivers, what you're
That's
saying,
correct.
right? Because somebody could backdoor how much sales they're doing.
Right.
Well, I think that if they see that there's a million cars around every single solitary night, they're doing a pretty good business.
So they'll do their numbers.
I don't want the little things. You just got to say that it would work. And I agree that this will work. And I agree that you do have to have somebody come in, and it would be nice to know that. Yeah, that's what he said just a few minutes ago.
In my opinion, if it just broke even without counting the other things, that is a successful recreation facility. That's the goal, in my opinion. Everything else is great because it's too hard to account for. You want it to break even.
Well, I want it to make money because that's what's
Just the facility should break even, at least break even.
right. But then it still benefits because you still got sales tax additional.
That's great.
Yeah. All right. and you're right. You don't know what you're going to have, but still you're pulling in money. And there's a lot of avenues that are inside of it that we've never really found out all of them that are out there.
So all you're saying is the net operating income versus the expense, if we break even, that's a happy day.
Yeah, I think so. That's a
That's a
fair
side
statement.
sales tax,
And a big
selling any-
recreational endeavor like that, that's a successful endeavor.
And I-
Not counting all that residual stuff, the project itself should break even.
Right, because over time, if it's managed properly, the net operating expense, other than repairs and maintenance, should come down a little bit if you know how to manage it, and the net operating income should be a surplus at some point, you'd hope in the future.
This is tough because it's really a business, it's not a,
It is a business.
it's
That's why I said
it's not a
it's-
community-based
Right.
endeavor. So it's different, it's a real unique.
And I don't disagree with you at all. It is a business. That's why, when we first started this, it's not for the residents to come in and use, because if the residents were coming in and using it, then it voids the whole idea of this. The whole thing we're trying to do here is bring in money so the residents get more than what they did before. If they wanted to come in and pay the same way everyone else did, there's no stopping them.
But we have a non-resident resident.
Right, but if I have, if let's just say we get, the baseball obviously is the first one we decide to start with. If we've got a weekend coming in to where we've got 60 teams coming in, we've got all the fields locked up, I don't want the residents coming up and saying, well, we want to go to this field. Because it just kills the whole idea. And I think that most people that are understanding what we're trying to do This is a business. We're trying to make more money for the village so we can do more for them. Doesn't mean that down the line, you know, we've already said that we're more than happy to go over to the park over here and dress it up. That's what my kid went on and used. We didn't do it for raising money. We did it so the kids could come here and play ball. This one is for having them come here to spend money here. It is a business. There's a head count. Everyone is going in, whether you're a resident or not. You're going to pay the head count. And the whole idea here is to do something besides rely on just sales tax.
Mayor, I would just say on that, the business point is one of the two reasons why I've changed my position on this. As you know, I've been supportive of this for over 2 years in every meeting. Why I've changed my position on this project is twofold. One, it was the two big things for me, and this has been consistent from the start, is how do we pay for it? And then two, community use. And you know that's always been a key thing for me, right? Because the original proposals on this had two very different things. One, the original proposal was no dollars, no tax dollars, right? And then as this progressed and that wasn't going to be successful, we talked about 50% tax dollars. That's what the pro formas have most of them based on. And now we're talking 100% tax dollars, right? So we've taken 3 big steps on that to now we're talking all tax dollars. 1. 2, the original proposal had 12 fields, 8 for tournament, 12 for our kids. Because, in my opinion, our facilities in this town are not up to par with any town around us. And I see that firsthand from my own kids who play baseball, who now we've played HAC. This year my kids are playing Orland for various reasons, right? And I hope to come back to HAC. But this is a town that's facilities aren't up to par with the towns around us. And so
other towns that have more money.
Fantastic, right? Different discussion. And so that goes to my third one, which is priorities. I've always thought this is an idea that could work. I don't need to see another feasibility. Well, maybe I need to see 100% financing, because the one we have now, 100% financing, says we don't ever turn a profit in the first 10 years. But even if that came back and this was going to be a success, I think it is potentially the right town. I think it's potentially the right idea. I think it's the wrong time. Because in my world, we have higher priorities right now than 4 to 5 to 6 to maybe 7 million. Because in that 5 million doesn't include land, right? And that's still something that we've not been able to lock down over the course of 3 years of talking about this. So the 5 could easily turn into 7. And we're right back to where we were at a 50%. So for those reasons, in addition, and I'll make one last point, business growth in this town is very important. There's no doubt about it, right? But I have 2 personal friends with young families, personal friends, one which I encourage to move to this town, that are now moving to other towns, one neighboring, one not, with young families. And their reason, now again, this is anecdotal, this is 2 close friends of mine, right? Anecdotally, their reasons are not, they'd love to see more restaurants, we all would. They'd love to see 159th opened up and some of the projects that are planned. That's not it. They're moving because of the amenities. And while this park is going to be fantastic, it's still not close to paid for. And it's not going to impact sports in any way, shape, or form. And so I just see this from firsthand experience right now, that the choices are forcing people to other towns more than, for friends of mine with young families, more than the restaurants, which would certainly be nice, more than anything else, it's the amenities in those towns that are moving toward to have the amenities. And when we talk about the property taxes, most of the towns around us are, and this isn't attributed to us, it is, you know, other taxing bodies, because we don't levy a property tax, but property taxes in the towns around us are comparable. And they have all of the amenities.
But they
right?
have a municipal tax, which is a big, big difference.
But it's still comparable, even with their municipal tax, is what I'm saying. They're not, someone that moves to Lamont is not going to go from 7,000 to 8,000 on the same home. They're going to be right around 7,000 still, same in New Lenox. It just is the fact. And that's not our fault, right? But those are the reasons that I think it's just, it's evolved over the last 3 years. I've been supportive. When we thought we could get private money, bring it into town. I just think we have $5 to $7 million that could be applied towards not just amenities, but capital projects. We've got projects in this town that are going to need to be funded. And so I just don't think the timing is right for this.
All right.
Because we have, in my opinion, higher priorities.
All right, well, with what you just said, with the priorities, with what you want done in the village, it has to be funded. There's my question. How do we fund it?
I think
There's something that has to come in.
Yeah, I think, take the hotel, for example. I don't subscribe to the notion that if we don't build this facility, there won't be a hotel in Overland. Because to Trustee Gray's point, every town around us is doing that right now in building hotels. And if I listen to our economic development experts, they say that once one hotel breaks ground and builds, the likelihood of a piggyback is high. So I don't know that's true. I just know that I'm not convinced that the only way we bring a hotel to this town is by building a sports complex. I think adding Waterfall Place and more banquet facilities like Denolfo's and other things, I think all contribute. I think there's a good chance we're gonna have a hotel in this town. And once 159th Street is done, I think we're going to get some of the restaurants. Now, when you talk about Orland and all the restaurants, Orland has every restaurant you can imagine. 99% of them are the chain restaurants, and that's fine, right? But I don't go to Orland to go sit at I don't know, name your chain restaurant in Orland. Now that would be great, right? A Buffalo Wild Wings would be great.
I'm not talking restaurants like that.
Well, that's where I think that's, yeah. So I don't know. That's my view on it.
Well, the whole point is somehow the village has to get money coming in, and we don't have any revenue source right now, none, except for sales tax. Something has to be done.
And that's what this will continue, sales tax.
All right. And then as for getting the money from people, I agree. I did think that it would be a lot easier, especially when you have someone who's got millions upon millions of dollars. But then when I really started thinking about it, who the hell am I to ask somebody to give me for no reason whatsoever? Does the state, then I should be able to go to the state because we're part of the state saying, give me some money because this is what we're doing, we're going to try to help build us up.
But it took 2 years to come to that realization, right?
No,
For 2 years, we looked for potential donors, because that's the way this worked, and we all agreed on that's the way this worked. And then we came, not all of us maybe, but a group of us came to the conclusion that 50% we could entertain, but we needed that partner on the other side to come in with the money, but we own the whole facility. And now we're to 100% financing by taxpayers when, again, my view is that there's higher priorities for that same dollars. And that because resources are scarce, right? That's why I say right town, wrong time. Down the road, 10 years from now, maybe that's the right time after we get everything else that makes us competitive with towns around us for drawing people. This sports complex isn't going to draw residents to Homer Glen, in my opinion. It's going to draw destination type people for sure, right? And I think there's pluses and minuses to that too. But the things that I know people are moving out of this town for personally have nothing to do with whether we have a sports complex and a couple more restaurants. To me, that's the higher priority in addition to some of the capital projects that we need to continue bringing more businesses.
And I agree with you. Most of the people that are moving out is because of Illinois American Water. And we don't have it.
And I think that's true for some. For the two people I'm talking about that are currently selling their homes, that's not the reason. I know that's the reason for others.
Because of sports.
They're leaving because of the amenities for what they get for the same dollar. That's because they have more kids.
Parks and sports programs and things like that, when they're stable, they stabilize our property values and they give us long-term stability in that, I mean, like you said, this is a business and they can ebb and flow, and we can be left, high and dry some seasons. Maybe it'll come back, maybe it won't. But, if our property values and everything are going to go along with that, those are, the infrastructure, I think is what Trustee Earnings was referring to, the infrastructure, the hard build things that we look at older towns around us and we say, those are the things that they take for granted because they've probably been in place for 50, 75, 100 years, you know, a lot of those things.
And they do have the money to be,
Right,
and they have
I'm
the
not
municipal.
disagreeing that, you know, that it probably was easier 100 years ago, and they, you know, now they keep those things going along. But those have huge benefits throughout their community, you know, when John, when you referenced that it's, you know, if it breaks even, that's a good thing, and the gravy is what we get. That's the saying, I think, that you employ when you're talking about like a rec center or a community center, that you're using the public dime to pay for it, and the residents are gonna enjoy it. If it's the public dime paying for something that's basically a business, that's not a, wouldn't it be nice if it just breaks even? It has to. We're putting their money into this project and saying, we're throwing the dice here, you know, and that's where my discomfort comes in. You know, we're throwing the dice and saying, you know, we hope this pays off in the end. And there's no guarantee, you know, the dice are in the air, basically, so.
And at the same token, it's the number that they're throwing out of the park is $15 million.
And I guess
That's paid for by tax dollars. That's not benefiting them really either, unless they want to go out and walk in the park.
Right.
Not everyone's going to be.
But I
using
believe
it.
everybody disagreed with that $15 million number, you know, they would probably get it somewhere lower than that.
Well, even if it was
That
10
predates
million.
me.
But here, this is probably the one thing that kind of floors me the most on this. You're talking about people leaving here because of not having amenities and sports. If we don't allow the kids to use the sports complex that we're bringing in as a business, then I think we have a bunch of snakes. Because the fields that are out there, we have 4 fields that are out there that I had no problem with my kid work with her or played out there. It all depends on who's going to keep it up and who's going to clean it. And that's taxpayer money that no one was putting any money in for from the teams. It wasn't no.
But no other town around us does that. We're asking the
town
private
does.
groups to just, hey, go fund it, and go, no other town around us tells their sports groups, go fund everything yourselves. Thank you, and while you're at it, can you mow?
But did we also say that we?
They have park
we
districts.
have a problem with, but right now it goes back to the same thing. You have a park district, somebody has to pay for
I
it.
get it. I'm not arguing that right now. I'm staying on this. I'm saying that when you have teams in Homer, again, first-hand experience, when you have 9 and 10-year-old teams practicing to a field, which is a safety issue. I've seen it firsthand. I've been coaching those teams. It's a safety issue. We have 2 teams to a field, and then you're going to go put turf across the way and say, hey, you guys can look at it, but you can't touch it unless you want to rent it. That to me is a. I think you're underestimating the reaction to that. Because I know if I wasn't as informed and involved as I am, if I read that in the paper, I'd be at the first village board meeting I've ever been to say, is this a joke? Right? That's the part that's always been, and George, you know this, it's always been community use has always been a key to this for me. Knowing that, now with the one caveat, if someone came in with private money and built this, absolutely, it is a business, right? It's their money. And our kids are going to have to live with that because some developer came in and built it and paid for it like any other private company. That's not the case. Now it's 100% our dollars. So.
Anyone else?
I have a question. Did we ever, I apologize that I was not here on time. Did we ever figure out the land solution?
No, I'm not even trying to talk to him, so I don't want to go through all this and then get everything all set up, and then at the end of the day, I gotta go set everything up, we're not interested, we're not gonna do it. So all I want to do is I want to get either a consensus to go out and take a look at this, because if we don't get the land, I'm not willing to pay that money for it. because I want
When you
to-
say go out and take a look at it, you mean going out and talking to somebody to give us the land?
Yes.
Purchase the land?
Give us the land,
Give us.
or lease us the land.
George, but since our last meeting, you've been working on that.
I have not called them in probably 4 weeks now.
Okay, but our last meeting on this was in January. You've spoken to him since then. You've
I
worked on the land for
I
long
spoke
since
to
then.
him in January last year, and that's the last time I did talk to him. And it goes back to what I said before. They ask you questions you can't answer because no one wanted to get anything.
I think, let me just jump to the case again. I think what the mayor is suggesting is, presuming we can get the land donated, would the board be willing to publicly fund $4 to $5 million for a paid field council? If that just simplifies it.
Yes, because I support that, because what you say, I take maybe a little bit of issue when you, trustee Varian says, well, the people, they might not be able to use it, it's a business. But people, we don't collect anything from them. It's a sales tax that's paid by Orland, New Lenox, everybody that comes through. We don't charge a municipal tax, we don't charge a park district tax, so you can't look at it in such a narrow view like you just did, because I get it, we're using the sales tax dollars to say pay for it, but it's not only coming from our residents, it's coming from everybody around too. Look at all the people that come to Meyer, they're coming from, so that sales tax, just like the gas tax, it's a pass-through tax, it's coming in from everybody. So you can't just look at it like, oh my gosh, we're using our residents' money to pay for this, and it's a business and they can't use it. So
You're right, that's one of the attractive things about the sales tax, is it's not, it is a pass-through or reaching other people's pockets. That's the beauty of it. I would disagree that if you bring in any taxpayer from this town and tell them that's not their money, of how to spend it, it is. I think you get a different answer on that. And that's what we're talking about, is the spending part of it. Not the raising part of it, the spending part of it. And that is the purview of the residents in this town, and that's what I'm talking about.
And you don't think some of the residents, when they find out that something is $11 or $15 million for a park, they wouldn't get a little bit upset and scenarios and other things? So this is something I said a long time ago. What we should have done in the first place is bring it up to the village, let the people know exactly what the hell we're doing, and if they like it, great. If they don't want it, then don't do it. I've said that since we started this.
I'm just not comfortable with villages getting into business. The numbers aren't there. I mean, I spend about a half an hour with my accountant, just my own personal accountant, going through this thing, and it's not there. It's what Johnson, the consultant, is saying. It's not going to work. I respect your passion and that you believe it's going to work. I don't believe it's going to work. You know, and the fact that the residents don't get to use it, that's a hard pill for me to swallow, especially when you do see that these kids need activities. Now, when Orland built that sports parks, I was like, man, that's really mean of them to do that, because Lifetime had just opened, all these other places had just opened. But if the residents want to go there and pay it and use it and stuff, it's generating money. But it's not, it's, the residents get to use it. Okay?
They can use it.
It's not just boys, it's seniors, it's girls, it's women, and there's a lot more activities for them to do there than just one activity. You're saying, you know, you're singling it out to one activity. And granted, I'm not in the sports world with kids. I don't travel around with them. I don't see what you're seeing. My big thing is I don't believe the village should take $5 million and try to get into business.
First of all, it's not one, it's many, but we can't do everything all at the same time, because then we definitely do put ourselves in a bad situation. And I said a few minutes ago that if they want to pay, they can use it, and that's what it is. Anything that you go for recreation, you pay for it. And when Brian and myself went out to Lamont and looked at theirs, they have to pay a fee every year to use it, and they also pay for it on their property tax. We're trying not to do it on anything. We're trying to get this thing to where it pays for itself, brings in more money to the village, brings more money to the schools, so the schools won't charge as much. You're not looking at the big picture. Yes, right now, the only thing we're looking at.
No, I'm looking at numbers. The numbers that we were getting,
and those
that's
are
what I'm
also
looking at.
skewed, because when we first did it, we told them, it's a worst case scenario of what it would do.
That's not what that is. That's their conservative projection at 40% use.
Well, you know, like I said, I don't want to argue with this. I want an idea to where now it is out in the open. I hope this does get in the paper. That I want to know if people are in favor of trying to do something that is going to benefit this village. If,
in your opinion, it's going to benefit this
In my
village. It
opinion.
could taint this village too, because there are villages that have gone out and done things like this, and it doesn't work.
Who?
And the soccer place, Bridgeview. I mean, those people are on the verge of bankrupting their residents.
Country Club Hills with the concert thing. Isn't that the one that's like about the longer
he fills it up every night that he has concerts there.
You give the tickets away, you probably will fill it up.
I've got a business out there, and I don't see any tax for that.
So it's 7:02. Do you want to take a consensus so that we can be done with this again? I mean, because I'm a no.
Okay. Brian's a lawyer, you know that.
But this consensus, is
this is on 100% financing by us. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with the whole idea. I'd much rather see someone pitch in the funds.
We're not saying that we're going to turn someone down if they want to.
Of course.
I think we can all agree anything that.
I would say yes on the premise that I know that we were still exhausting all options to have private funding in this.
No, I've never said
I've told you
we
that.
wouldn't, and I've never said that we would turn down private funding. But, you know, for the people that came to me with the hockey end of it, said, you gotta start doing something. People will come out, they will put up money. And like I told you, when I talked to Jessica, he's got a bunch of people that are willing to do it.
If it's not private money, it's an advertising, the Toyotas, the New Balance.
We went down that road.
I mean,
That was a dead end too. I mean, we've explored lots of avenues on
We didn't
this to get
explore it, it was
to
explored by other people who got greedy and asked for more than what we should have asked for.
our logo and our stuff was on it. So, I mean, we were involved in that and so.
All right, so Keith?
No, not at this time, no.
Jen? Christine?
Sorry.
All right, then you just, like I said before, I don't have to worry about talking to Mr. Gallagher. I still think that, all right, I need a motion to adjourn.
That's a move.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Everyone rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray?
Present.
Trustee Rogers?
Present.
Trustee Smith?
Present.
Trustee Maxey-Turkey?
Present.
Trustee Barry?
Present.
Trustee Caprio?
Present.
Mayor Yurkovich?
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the minutes of April 11th, 2018 village board meeting?
So moved.
Trustee Gray,
Second.
Trustee Rogers, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries, ayes have it. Is there a motion to approve the accounts payable period of March 30th, 2018 through April 26th, 2018?
So moved.
Mr. Durian,
A second.
Mr. Caprio. Discussion? Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Smith? Aye. Trustee Maxey-Turkey?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Barry?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is requests for communications from the mayor and other officers. I'll start it out. I would like to thank the Homer Township Chamber of Commerce for putting together the State of the Village address. We would also like to thank everyone who came out to join us. If you were unable to attend, the event can be viewed on the village's website at www.homerclan.org. Goodings Grove tree planting. Thank you to Boy Scout Troop number 63 and Cub Scout Pack 61 for assisting the village in planting 42 oak trees at Goodings Grove Park on Saturday. Heritage Park update. Heritage Park Phase 1 is 55% complete. The contractor is currently pouring sidewalks and finalizing the stone base. Asphalt paving of the binder course for Heritage Circle will be complete next week, and this phase will be completed this June. Heritage Park 319 grant area project date. As you know, the village received a grant for constructing stormwater wetlands, bioswales, and rain gardens in the Heritage Park as part of the water quality improvement project for the Run Creek watershed, funded in part through Section 319 funding from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. These improvements were also identified as solutions to improve drainage in the Woodbine subdivision area, and a study was conducted in 2015. In total, the village will receive $521,704 in grant funding, covering 60% of the total cost. I'm happy to report the bid for the phase will be advertised on May 23rd and the 30th. The bid opening is scheduled for June 5th, with an award of bids at the June 13th Village Board meeting. Work will be substantially completed by September 30th. Heritage Core, Active Core update. The Active Core Phase 2 project, consisting of a gazebo, sensory garden area, tennis courts, sand volleyball courts, bocce ball courts, corn bean bag toss platforms, a nature play area, challenge course area, and a fitness area, will go out to bid on May 16th, 2018. Bids will be due on May 31st, and we look forward to award the bids at the June 13th Village Board meeting. Trail markers installed along Heroes Trail have been installed along our Heroes Trail system through funding provided by the Homer Glen Foundation. Trail users will now be able to know where they are and how far they've traveled and communicate their location in case of an emergency. Each marker gives tribute to our military heroes, and each leg of the trail recognizes a branch of the military. Again, a big thank you to the Homer Glen Foundation for the support on this project. And last for me is, I contacted Speedway last week because I see our gas prices are more than what they charge in Cook County. I thought it was ridiculous. I don't think it's fair to the residents here that they're paying more than what they'd be paying in the city of Chicago. Speedway is going to send someone down and sit down with us and talk about it. The way it is right now, we're 20 to 25 cents more than what they sell gas in Royland Park. Lockport is about 25 to 30 cents cheaper than what we are. To me, I think it's gouging, and I would like to see it stop. So as soon as I do talk to them, I will have an update. Next, we go to the trustees. We'll start with Trustee Caprio.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Mayor. Reporting on behalf of the Homer Community Fest Parade Festival Committee. Our fest is actively being planned, June 21st through June 24th of 2018. A lot of amenities, a lot of great bands throughout the entire weekend. We are still featuring our Special Needs Day starting at 2 p.m. on Friday, going through 4:30 for families with special needs. We're always looking for adult volunteers as well as children or teenage volunteers. We're still working out details on the volunteer. It's my understanding, and I missed the last meeting, maybe Trustee Gray can help me with it, but the contact number at this point, I think you can get some information through the village for volunteers, but the road district may be taking on the brunt of the work in helping us with our volunteers. Mike DeVivo has been gracious enough to take that task on, and he's got some people in his organization that will help him with that. So I want to thank him for that. And so I would give you their number. I don't have it offhand. So if you can contact the village, and Sue Stylen might be able to help you direct for volunteers, and at the next meeting I will report on that with more detail. Because I'm unfortunately unable to make the meeting. So with that said, we look forward to seeing you all at the Homer Fest this year. We plan on having a great festival. It may be our final year. I say maybe because we're trying to move it here to the village in 2019, which will be a challenge, but I think we can get it done. And so it may be our final year at that property, not the final year for the fest. So with that said, Mayor, I appreciate it, and that concludes my report.
Thanks, Trustee Caprio. Trustee Suisse.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting for the Environment Committee. We would like to offer thank you to Living Lands and Waters for providing the red oak seedlings that were planted at Goodings Grove Park. In addition to the seedlings at Goodings Grove Park, we have some available, there's supposed to be some available here tonight outside the door. And there will also be an instructions sheet for planting, and will also be available on the table. You may take up to 3 seedlings per household, and please plant them within the next couple of days. Do you know where a big tree is located in Homer Glen? Could it be the biggest? In honor of Arbor Day, which is this Friday, the Homer Glen Environment Committee is looking for the biggest trees in the village. Nominations for each species of a living tree can be submitted, and applications are on the table by the door. The deadline for submission is May 31st. As a reminder, our next stargazing event will take place on Friday, May 11th, weather permitting, at the Trianfina Farm from 9 to 11 p.m. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Sweet. Trustee Rogers?
On behalf of the Public Safety Committee, the new Lennox Fire Station that was discussed at a previous meeting that had been closed was reopened today with the help of the village and a no interest loan. So they will hopefully go back to a referendum in November and be successful in their efforts. We have ordered, or the Township Highway Department ordered some new signage for parks around the area. Just the basic simple parks that serve children at play. And we have asked for a timeline as to when those will be installed, and with the direction to be installed prior to Memorial Day. The last day of school for some is before, and the last day of school is after. So the direction is to have those signs installed prior to Memorial Day, along with some of the radars. That's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Rogers. Trustee Barry?
Just a quick report on behalf of Community Economic Development. Just a big congratulations to Eddie's Brew Pub at 157th and Bell. The former Steamers as a new business, and their doors are open. So just a big congrats to them for choosing Homer Glen. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Barry. And Trustee Trikey?
I also just have a quick report. July 14th is the Goodings Grove grand opening. I will have more details next board meeting. And as usual, George reports on Heritage Park, so that's all I have right now.
All set? Thank you, Trustee Trikey. Trustee Gray?
I have no committee report, Mayor, since my 2 co-chairs have covered everything for the Vest and for public safety. But I would like to say a big thank you to all of the residents, and especially Rachel Sweet, who helped coordinate the Homer cleanup day on Sunday. Several of us were able to get out there with a bunch of the residents and clean up, make some impact on 143rd, Bell Road, some other sites around the area, as well as I saw some postings on Facebook where communities were trying to get together in their own subdivisions and just stick to that. So big thank you to everybody for coming out and helping clean up, and hopefully that continues to go forward.
I agree. Thank you, Trustee Gray. Treasurer report?
Yes, Mayor, I have the Treasurer's Report of Cash and Investments at March 31st, 2018. It's the 11th month of our fiscal year. We're well on our way to another operating surplus for this fiscal year. It shows the general fund with a balance of $5,411,609.95. The special event fund had a cash and investment balance of $49,919.15. The environment fund had a balance of $81,585.38. The motor fuel tax fund had a cash and investment balance of $2,438,861.64. The Park and Recreation Fund had a balance of $3,478,257.82. The Debt Service Fund had a balance of $2,452,837.63. And the Capital Project Fund had a balance of $1,028,913.22. The EAB Tree Replacement Fund had a balance of $355,278.33. And the last fund, the Capital Project Bond Fund, had a balance of $14,149,684.71. For a grand total, all funds, $29,446,947.83. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Sawyer. Village Clerk?
No report.
Thank you. Village Attorney?
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Public Safety Officials?
No report.
Thank you. Village Manager? Oh, come on. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Just leave it in the back there, enough. So, just a couple quick things. Summer's coming, so I just wanted to remind everybody, obviously, about summer safety. Be careful driving, kids on bikes, all that kind of stuff, so be careful. Barbecues, another thing, just make sure you're careful if you're out barbecuing. Don't keep it too close to the house and stuff like that. And just a reminder, we do come out for block parties. So if anybody, I've had some calls that people are like, oh, I didn't think you did those, but we do send the agent and the emails to block parties. So if you did need them to come to your block party, give me a buzz and we can swing on by. And if a couple of quick seconds, I did put myself under for the public comment section. If it's okay, I can just kind of talk about it now, what I was going to talk about. We just wanted to kind of go over again, we just wanted to address our concern that we had talked about with the cell tower thing and the ordinance, that if there is any cell towers in the future, that we just wanted to have space on the tower. And that was just what was talked about before. And the language that we got, I guess there was a concern about the way it was spelled out, the fire, police, EMA, 911. The ordinance where we got this from before was a community that was a village. They had a village, fire department, village, police department, village. So they were all under one entity. Because we have separate entities here, that's why it's spelled out. But we just wanted to reiterate that we would like to see that happen. And if there's any questions about it, I'll be around. So when it's discussed. All right, thank you.
Okay. Next will be public comment. No. No report? Okay. With everyone talking about the tower, if someone does explain what you're trying to do, if you can do me a favor and just keep it that way. We tried to keep this to 3 minutes. We understand that there's a lot of people that are upset with this. I know there's some people that are happy with it. So, welcome to come before us and let us know how you feel. So, it would be Pat Newman.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Pat Mueller. I'm a real estate broker with HB&D Realty, and I live in Homer Glen at 13044 Chicago Burlington Trail. Excuse me, I'm a little cold. I'm here to voice my opinion and to ask you to deny the special use permit for the proposed Parker Road property, which would allow the erection of a cell tower. I can appreciate your decision that you have to make. It's not an easy one. But for the good of many neighboring homeowners, denial is imperative. I have come to the conclusion, not necessarily based on the well-documented health concerns, of which there are many, but rather upon the considerable devaluation of property caused by cell towers located in residential areas. The Bond and Hugh proximity impact study and the Bond and Wang transaction-based market study, among others, have determined that cell towers cause between 15 to 21% devaluation of property values. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, requires its certified appraisers to take the presence of nearby cell towers into consideration when determining the value of a single-family residential property. An overwhelming 94% of home buyers and renters surveyed by the National Institute for Science, Law, and Public Policy say they are less interested and would pay less for property located near a cell tower. As a realtor for over 20 years, I have worked with clients that refuse to purchase a home near a cell tower or would do so only at a decreased price. These above citations are only the tip of the iceberg. A plethora of other substantial studies and research have arrived at the same conclusion as to the detrimental impact of cell towers on property values. Think about it. Would you want to live near a cell tower if you knew that when you went to sell your home, that the price would have to be discounted? I don't think so. Put yourself in the position of a home buyer looking to purchase in Homer Glen. Would you not be more inclined to pay less for a similar home located by a cell tower? There is a more appropriate vacant site available one large enough to accommodate a cell tower, yet surrounded by basically treeless farmland with very few homes. It was the petitioner's second choice and offered by the current owner, the Homer Township Fire Department. The revenue generated from this project would not only benefit the fire department, but the entire village of Homer Glen. The issue of a difference between the elevation of the fire department site and that of Parker Road is not so severe that a solution could not be reached. Maybe the fire department site does not quite fit the donut hole that the petitioner wants to fill, but that appears to be a minor inconvenience compared to the financial hardship it will create for those living around the Parker Road site. Village board members were previously presented with a petition signed by many homeowners asking to have the special use permit denied. Please listen to their requests, for these are the people who live here. Their financial interest should prevail over the petitioner, who solely wants to make as much profit as possible, regardless of the negative impact on our community. Deny the Parker Road site and turn your attention to the fire department site on Chicago-Bloomington Trail. That should not be a hard decision to make. Please listen to the voices of the people who have voted you into power. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
Next will be Robert Cotrell.
Is this on the floor?
Yes.
Because I also signed up for a variance, I want to miss that.
Well, this is public hearing, so whatever you got, let's.
I could speak to variance.
Two plus variance.
I'll do that first quickly. I'm more concerned with that. Can I ask a question for the board? On the exterior construction standards, I understand someone, property owner, I assume, asked for a variance. Is this normal procedure? Anyone can do this to bypass any of the existing standards? Is that how it works?
The petitioner could ask for an appeal to the board to various building standards. That's what's happening this evening.
I just wanted to be sure I understood how it works. Because there's a property across the street from this variance where the homeowner could not get a variance and had built a detached garage with brick behind his house. And I wonder why this person can ask for a variance on a home that hasn't even been constructed yet, on a vacant lot. How does that work?
Recently, we updated our building codes for secondary structures to modify building requirements. So I'm not sure when that other garage application came in.
In the last 2 years.
Yeah, this was maybe 6 months ago. We adjusted our building requirements to have the garage material match the building structure, and the minimum have face brick up to 3 feet, and then some type of hardy board or siding that will match the home. So it all depends on what the home's exterior look is. But we recently updated that.
So if he had applied today, he wouldn't have had the ability to put garage?
I'd have to actually check out what material, it's supposed to match the home. So if it was a sided home, for example, we changed our requirements to allow for the applicant to do siding on the home. If it's a brick home, we changed the requirements to require only 3 feet of face brick, and the rest to be of hardy board material, which looks like siding, but to match the color of the home. So we tried to make it a little bit more reasonable.
In this particular case, I'm against granting variance for this new, supposedly it's going to be a new home. The lot, I believe, is pending sale right now. There are brick homes on the street. There are a couple homes that aren't brick. They were built 30 years ago. There was no Homer Glen. And I'm opposed to the variance for this. As far as the cell tower is concerned, I was for it. I don't have any cell coverage. We don't have cell coverage where we are, and I don't know if it will be provided by the new cell tower. I'm not worried about any safety concerns. I don't think well-documented applies. As far as aesthetics, I understand somebody that can see the cell tower and knows it's nearby, I could see how they could be opposed to it. I can't see it. I can't see a sunset or a meteor shower where I live because there's trees everywhere. So I'll go along with the flow, with the pervasiveness of cell phones nowadays. I think you could lose a home sale if somebody moved into the area and knew there wasn't any cell coverage, which there isn't for most houses. And I think what this really belies is everybody wants cell coverage, but nobody wants to live near a cell tower. That's an old story. So I could go along with the flow if it's not built there, if it's moved. It doesn't bother me. I don't carry a cell phone. I'm not opposed to it being built.
Thank you, Robert. Next would be Andrea Kocher.
Hi, I've lived in Homer Glen. It'll be 47 years come July. 39 of those years, I worked for Homer School District Transportation Department. During these years, I had firsthand view of the changes taking place in Homer Township. When it became apparent that surrounding towns wanted to take bits and pieces of our township, we fought them by becoming the village of Homer Glen. This gave us the right to forge our own path and make our own decisions on the type of village we wanted to become. I believe, and I ask you, Mayor and board members, that we could all agree that all residents in Homer Township are treated equally and have the right to continue to be treated equally. I feel, and we all can agree, that we don't discriminate against any group of residents. This being said, the residents that live surrounding the proposed cell tower property have submitted a petition to the Planning Commission with 30-plus signatures on it at the April 5th meeting. That may not seem like a lot of signatures, but you have to remember, we are the rural residents of Homer Glen. And we're the so-called nature part of Homer. We have talked to other residents in other areas, and I know at one time there was a consideration for a cell tower on the fire department on South Valley. I don't see the residents still wanted it. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, the cell tower, they wanted to put one up about 174th, 175th in Parker. The residents there filed a petition. It was turned down. We are just asking that we are given the same consideration other residents in the township, in the village have been given. We're asking to have the same rights as other residents. Our village motto is nature and harmony. Nature and community and nature and harmony. That is something we should be proud of. Our Planning Commission in January took a vote and turned down the cell tower by 5-1 vote. At the village board meeting, it was turned back to the Planning Commission. At the April meeting, the Planning Commission brought a speaker in. This man was totally for the cell tower. I would think someone should have brought in a neutral party, one that could give pros and cons against the cell tower. So our Planning Commission went from a 5-1 vote against it to a unanimous vote for it. As some of us residents were standing outside the building, the man that gave such an elaborate speech for the cell phone tower came out, met with all the cell people and the resident that wants it in his property, shaking hands. They were really happy about the whole thing. So much for standing up for the citizens of our community. The residents surrounding 17239 South Parker are asking you to consider our rights and help us protect our property values and also protect all the residential areas in the village from giving cell tower companies the freedom to destroy our home values and have the possibility of an ill effect on our health. In closing, I just want to point out, I have an iPhone and live in the supposed dead zone, and my carrier is Verizon. I have no problem with whatsoever of getting a phone call in my house or any place else I go in Homer Glen. It seems Messenger Woods may be the dead zone, but not many deer, coyotes, fox, rabbits run around with cell phones. We suggest to them that they approach Kono's property. Kono's farm goes all the way up, butts up against the forest reserve. Why can't a cell tower go there where nobody, it's not around residents? It's not in a residential area. Why can't it go there? It seems every place, there's a lady that lives off of Division Street, way back up off of Division Street. I talked to her. She's right up against Messenger Woods. Nobody approached her about putting a cell phone tower there. That's where the dead zone is, but nobody ever approached her. It seems every place we suggested, they came up with a reason why it wasn't good enough. So I guess it comes down to money and who's willing to sell out the neighbors the cheapest. Would any of you sitting here want your neighbor to put up a cell tower in their backyard? If the answer to that is no, then you know how we feel. Do we sound emotional? Yeah. We're emotional because it's our lives that you're dealing with. We did run a little bit of a test last week, and Bob Cutt will present the test we ran. And I thank you for your time.
Robert Cutt.
I echo everything both other people said. I live just south of that. My property butts up to the south. I echo everything you said. I won't take, I've talked to you guys before. Real estate values are a concern. I've been out there for 42 years. I kind of thought, I put my kids through college. This was kind of like a savings. At this 77 years old, I'm looking forward to hit financially. The real estate, the change in rural atmosphere is also. Is this a start of something that's going to happen out there in the A1 area? What about lights on this thing? My bedroom, right there, there's lights on this thing. It's shining right in my bedroom. I'm going to have to buy, according to the internet, 3M filter paper to protect the RH waves from coming through the windows into my bedroom. They claim there's no harm, but they're self-regulated. There's nobody monitoring this thing. They're supposed to be watching the store themselves. The fire department could use the revenue. They got the place. I mean, it's a perfect place, and it's not in floodplain. I don't know what the problem is. If it's a height thing, they can raise up or down. I did a little this in the service, so I know what the towers. I mean, any height they want. The last time they had a appraiser at the last village board meeting, planning commission, and he worked for them. I mean, we didn't have an independent appraiser, and I was trying to find one, but they don't want to get their feet dirty, I guess. I don't know. But I suppose that somewhere in everybody's travels, they've run across a salesman that didn't give them exactly what they wanted to hear. So I feel like the thing was loaded against us at the last planning commission. And again, I agree with everything you said. And Andrea did run a test deep in Messenger Woods. I have AT&T. I have it on my voicemail, loud and clear. And she was as deep in Messenger Woods as you can get. She's got Verizon. I got AT&T. No problem. If you want to hear it, I'd be glad to play it. But if you want to hear it, I mean, I think you take my word for it.
We take your word for it.
That's all I have to say. I appreciate your consideration and your time. I know we all got stuff to do, but this is important to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Laura Elmson? Amazon?
Hi, I live at 17127 South Parker Road, and basically I just have a question. We took out a special use permit back in maybe 2000, 2002 to build a garage behind our home, and we had to get a special use permit. At that time, they told us that we needed to place a special use permit sign in front of our home, and all our adjoining neighbors to the north, south, east, and west had to be in agreement in order for us to build that garage with a special use permit. If one person said no, we could not build it. So I want to know why it applied to us, but it's not applying to them. If anybody can answer that question.
I'm not familiar with the case, but normally with special use permits, it's up to the village board to approve or disapprove any of the permit. They might have taken public comments from some of the neighbors, but normally they don't request 100% neighbor approval on specific.
In our case, it was.
Yeah,
And
I don't know the history.
It was a
just saying
special use
currently.
permit, and everybody had to be in agreement. So, I mean, something so important as this, I don't understand why, if you're not taking it into consideration all the neighbors that it's affecting. Thank you.
I was a trustee. I hadn't been here for 12 years, so I didn't hear your case come before anybody. But I've never heard where if one person says no, that it would be canceled. They notify all the adjoining people, and I'm pretty sure it was at 250 feet from the site. And the reason that they did give them an opportunity to speak is if they had a problem, they wanted to at least let them hear what the residents had to say. So we could look into it, but and I'm not calling you a liar. All I'm saying is I've never heard of that ever happening. And it definitely hasn't happened on my watch.
It was the first year of village was in operation.
I can't hear you.
It was the first year.
It was
Okay.
in the first year of the village.
Okay. Well, they've ironed out a lot since then, and they've made things a little bit easier and some things a little bit harder, but way back in, unfortunately, 2002 or whatever year this did come forward, one person didn't have the opportunity to make a decision for everybody. And I hope they would never let that happen, because otherwise nothing would ever happen. Next would be Kevin Loftman.
Good evening. I live at 13323 Chicago Bloomington Trail. My wife and I, we lived there for 25 years, raised three children, and for 25 years, we've literally had no cell service. We still have a landline. We only use it for special occasions when we really need to speak to somebody. So for the other people who have lived in the area, we're right near the S-curve, and I would have to say over the last 25 years, off the top of my head, I could think of probably 5 to maybe 8 fatalities in just the S-curve alone. So for my family, we're a safety aspect with the cell tower because our phones don't work. We have Sprint. I've tried numerous companies over the years, and the reliability is slim to best. So we still have a landline. It rings 24/7 from all the political crap that you get in that particular season. Our kids are all in college. They have cell phones. They try to call us on our cell phones, which, no bail, doesn't work. But I have to tell you, if you have an emergency and you live in that area, I've had one, and it's not a good situation when you have a cell phone and you're running to finally find that damn landline, which we have one in the kitchen and the other ones are cordless. But if you are faced with that situation where you have an emergency and you're going to rely on that cell phone, it's not good. Again, there's been plenty of issues on, the S-curve in the area. And I hear about neighbors who are concerned about the health, environment, whatever. Well, I think it's 25 miles an hour on Parker Road. When I moved there wasn't even a stop sign on Parker and Chicago Bloomington Trail. I could sit at my window and watch cars blow through that stop sign, not even touch their brakes at 45 miles an hour. If you really want to spend some effort, figure that out and let the cell tower come up. There's trees everywhere. No one will ever notice it. It's right on the power lines. Nobody complains about the power lines. It's been there forever. I guarantee you, anybody here, the cell tower goes up, you will never even know it's there. But we've been there for 25 years. Come over to my house, Mayor. Try to call me, or call me tonight on my cell phone. I'll give you my number. You might answer it, but we won't have a conversation for over 30 seconds, because it's gone. So when there's an emergency, which you can check any record you want, Parker and Chicago Bloomington Trail, during the summer, at least 3 accidents a month, and some are serious. The S-curve, again, I might be low, but I know at least 5 to 8 fatalities in that general area alone. And you want to talk, and I don't care if you put it anywhere, you want to go towards Cono's Farm, there's fatalities at that corner as well. And I remember the night our friend's daughter died at that corner, trying to call our friends and family to find out what's going on. You don't have cell service, and it's hit or miss. And the cell service works with peaks, highs, and lows. So you could walk in the middle of the woods and dig a hole and make a phone call, and it may work. But when push comes to shove, and your family's in danger, and you can't get a hold of someone to come and help them because you're worried about, you may see a wire or a tower.
Put it in your backyard.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I will take it.
You know, that other
Absolutely.
Wait. When
I'll
I
take
let this
it.
get out of hand, you're here to make a public comment.
I'd be happy to have it.
Public comment.
I'd be happy to have it. And Mayor, you know where we live. There's trees everywhere. If you want to put it on the fire department, everybody in the community is going to see it on the fire department. It's up on top of a hill. It'll be the pinnacle of Homer Glen. You stick it over there in the S-curve, nobody in the village of Homer Glen will even know it's there. But I'll tell you what, when I need to call the police, the fire department, they better damn well show up, because I'll get back to the community, and if you come up Chicago Bloomington Trail and Parker, there's homes for sale like I've never seen before. And the taxes have gone through the roof. And if a young couple comes in and they want to Google something on their phone and they can't get a connection, they're going to move on to the next community. It's no big deal, people. Just let the tower go up and safety will improve, and we'll probably sell some of those houses. Mira's house, they're on 5 acres. They're asking $550 for that house. 10 years ago, it was $1 million house. $550 grand for Mira's house. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mayor?
No. Sylvia Kirkland.
Oh, sorry.
Leffler, L-O-E-F-F-L-E-R.
My name is Sylvia Crupton. I live at 17124 South Parker Road. I live on the S-curve on Parker. Yes, there are lots of accidents. We had 8 in 6 weeks last year. There are probably 25 a year on the corner, the eastern corner where we live. We have no problem calling emergency services. They're there all the time. But I only have 2 comments to make about this. One is, I used to be on the Homer Planning Commission a few years ago. And those who don't study history tend to repeat the problems. The township gave permission for where the speedway is on 143rd. They made that property, they wanted to change it to commercial for a office building. Dad changed it for that. Lo and behold, next thing you know, there's a gas station there. The county gave him permission, building permission to build the gas station because the property was ruled commercial. Because the township had failed to say office building in the work that was done. If you give permission for this cell tower, how many more can they put on their property? Or are you going to limit to just one? And as all these people say, you were elected to represent us as members of this community. And I certainly hope you do represent us. Thank you.
David Emerson.
Obviously, not welcome here today, but we were approached 10 years ago for the same reason to put a cell tower, and obviously economic reasons stopped that search, and then they came to us again 10 years later for obviously they're still looking for a spot to improve communication. As far as property values, I think the reason why property values are possibly down is because of the economic and the price that our taxes are so high in this community, and that's probably one of the reasons why the property values are stagnant. And again, the cell tower that they're proposed to install on our property is within 300 feet of two gigantic Commonwealth Edison towers. I mean, you would have to come down our driveway to see it in line with the Commonwealth Edison lines. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Now, you want to say something?
Yes, Mayor, thank you very much. I live in Victoria Village now, and have been a resident of Homer Township over Glen for 50 years. First of all, I want to thank you for all being here. You all do a wonderful job, and you're taking good care of it. The one thing that I want to commend is our police department. They do a nice job. The only thing that I would like to see is that the speed on 143rd Street is better controlled. I have witnessed drivers coming from Lockport or coming off the toll road, and they're doing 50 and 60 miles an hour going into Orland Park. And I believe, and the way to balance our budget is to enforce the traffic laws of the state of Illinois. Our speed limit is very minimal, 45 miles an hour. Why people have to go 50 and 60 miles an hour down 123rd or 169th Street, I'll never understand. People are tired. Let's think about the people who are left behind. So let's let the police department do the job. I know I'm asking them to do more than they normally do. But they do a hell of a job.
But they do a very wonderful job, and I will talk to them for you.
They do. But boy, oh boy, enforce it and make those people pay. Bless you.
Thank you, Bob. That's it for public comment right now. We're going to start the legislation and action items. Consider for approval ordinance number 18-18, an ordinance granting a variance to permit fiber, cement panels, and wood cladding on the first floor of the proposed dwelling in lieu of the exterior construction standards 75-67A, applicability and scope type of building and structure of Chapter 75, the Buildings of the Code of the Village of Homer Glen, for certain real property located in the R2A single-family residential district at 13327 West Cody Lane in Homer Glen.
So moved.
Trustee Gray? Trustee Caprio? Discussion.
I have a comment, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I believe the use of these fiber cement panels makes the building look somewhat unfinished, especially when it's a major component of that building. I don't know if the board remembers the white farmhouse in Spring Creek that we approved that was fiber cement panels. I've had residents approach me and ask, when is that building going to be finished? I said, it is finished. Well, when it's a major component, it looks like it's waiting for a top material to be finished off with. That's why I'm not a fan of having so much of it on the building.
Is the petitioner here?
Yes.
Can you tell us, is it going to be just raw cement board, or
Sure.
are you going to put a top
Yes,
coat over it?
my name is Brian Lipsky. I'm the architect for that house, and then also I'm hoping to live in it. I brought samples of the material so you could actually see them. The first one is a fiber cement panel. Like was mentioned earlier, it's essentially a hardy panel. Most of the time it's used in like a lap siding application. I'm looking to use it in more of larger rectangular shapes, but that's essentially what that material is. And then the wood material I'm looking to use is a composite wood fiber material. It's from a distance, it looks exactly like wood. This is what's used on the Whole Foods or Burger Kings or any fast food restaurant that you see that look like they have wood. It's a composite wood fiber product. And this is what I'm planning on using for the wood. It's more durable, it lasts longer, it doesn't need to be sealed as often as regular wood, so it'll keep the nice brand new look a lot longer with a very small chance of it ever deteriorating.
Is this material, the hardy board, is that going to be the finished product, or is
Yes.
So it doesn't have a coating?
The coating is integral with the product, so it doesn't need to be refinished every year. It's all one complete material. So
In that color?
Yeah.
With the.
Yep.
I just want to make sure that the picture's accurate.
Yep. Yes. As accurate as I can get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have pictures of it. I'm a big fan, I like modern architecture, so I like this, and this is not just like raw cement. So, I mean, it's not like what you're familiar with at Home Depot when you go in and see a cement board that's like an underlayment for tile. That's, you know,
Yeah.
I can see where Trustee Suisse is concerned about something being unfinished looking, but that has a nice enough sheen.
Yeah, I mean, it has the appearance of almost a smooth stucco, to give you that reference, and then it's just going to be kind of broken up with some reveals every couple of feet.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay, then Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Brian, did you have something?
Brian, did you have something to say?
No, that's
You have something to say?
I mean, I just would add that this house is not going to be seen from the street. Trustee Barry and I were there like 2-3 weeks ago, and it's a very heavily wooded area with a lot of different diverse houses. And I think to one person's opinion of a home is probably different than another person's, because there's probably homes on that street that some people are like, it, and some people are like, wow, that's a really cool house. So,
I would just say that I agree with that. May not be my taste, but I'm not here to judge taste. It's a material ordinance, and I think the intent of the material ordinance, even though I wasn't here when it was instituted, the way that I sort of view it is trying to stay away from materials that don't have the longevity of masonry based or things like that. I also think as a board, we had a discussion just as it relates to earlier comments about some things that may have happened in the past and some things that were required or were not required on accessory structures and things like that. It's something that has changed over time. We recently changed it. Materials are changing all the time. The materials aren't what they were 15 years ago. They aren't what they were 10 years ago. So to Trustee Rogers' point, it's a wooded area. I don't believe you're going to see the structure from the street, one. But number two, I think it does matter the area that it's in, right? So if this was going into Goodings Grove subdivision, I'd probably not a yes vote on this, right? But there are other structures in that area that prior to us incorporating don't either have wood or non-masonry materials. And so all of that, I think, comes together to build my view on this, which is, I'm not here to judge taste, I'm here to judge materials. And again, it's not in a neighborhood that I think it's okay.
And that was part of my appeal to that property, is because it is so heavily wooded. I am planning on doing very minimal clearing, just enough for a driveway and then the house and then a small backyard. There is a diverse range of houses on that street that, again, is part of the appeal to it. I didn't want to live in a quote unquote cookie cutter neighborhood, so I definitely agree this would not have fit in a neighborhood like that, but I'm hoping that this very heavily wooded street with a lot of diverse houses on it, this would fit in as nicely as it would anywhere.
I just have a question. Have you approached your neighbors? Because I know there's some big brick buildings right on both sides of you. Have you just...
I talked to one neighbor about it. They didn't seem to have a problem with it, but that's about it.
I have no issue. It's all in everyone's face. So, with that being said, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
No.
Trustee Rogers?
I'm going to have to abstain. I'm in current litigation that could be conflicting.
Trustee Barrett?
Aye.
Trustee Nice-Kutreki?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
All right, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Ordinance number 18-019, wireless communication facility. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 18-019, approving a special use permit for a wireless communication facility, WCF, 150 feet in height, in the A1 agricultural district, Article 8, general provisions of Chapter 220 of the Code of the Village of Homer Glen, for 17239 South Parker Road, Homer Glen, Illinois, subject to the conditions recommended by the Planning Commission, excluding the requirement to paint the tower in a neutral color. PI Tower Development, LLC, case number HG1727S. I so move. Trustee Caprio.
A second.
Trustee Rogers. Discussion.
I think I'll just reiterate what we've said at the previous meetings, and that the Public Safety Committee, and Keith, you can speak to this as well, the Public Safety Committee feels that at the direction of the public safety officials, this is an area that needs cell service. They have given us examples when they were out on calls and did not have proper cell coverage. Is Dave Brecker still here? Dave, you guys are on the Verizon network, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So this is something that I look at as a public safety issue, and I know when I'm talking to, I have friends and family that live all in that area, And I know I can be talking to them and have a perfectly fine conversation with them, and then it goes out and I know exactly where they're at. I think I was talking to one of you guys when we were driving that, and it was like, here, we're right over there, so. To propose moving it to another site, that's not for us. We can't determine where people put their things. That is a negotiating thing for them. And my understanding is it goes on the site that some of the residents want it to go on, which is the other, which is Homer Township's, or the fire department's other property. It's not going to service this area. So, yeah, well, I understand their concerns with their property values and things, but I really think we need to look at this as a public safety need for the village and the residents of Homer Glen.
No, I don't deny that maybe a tower is needed because of some of the issues, but I do believe that there is a more suitable location. And when they were before the board on the January 24th board, we asked them to come up with alternative sites. There's a possibility of alternative sites to possibly appease everyone. Now, I don't know if that was done, because in their own words, they said that unless a site is rejected, they won't look for a new site. So, you know, so it's like they're not going to look for an alternative unless one is declined, and then they'll look for another one. I don't know if that's true. But I would like, yes, sure. And then I have more questions about, you know, the other, if you looked at other spots.
Sure. Hi, good evening, Mayor, trustees. My name is Mark Lane. I'm here representing Verizon Wireless and their tower development partner, Parallel Infrastructure, in this matter.
Can you talk a little louder or into the mic?
Sure. Is that better? Now I can hear myself. Do you want to repeat that? Or
No.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
So I'm here with two of my colleagues, Alan Waits and Bill Schrader. They were both involved in the research that went into selecting this, helping to find a candidate for this location. Just briefly, the coverage objective, or the coverage hole in the network that Verizon's trying to fill, is very specific, and it's represented on the map on your overhead. The idea in resolving that coverage deficit is to get a tower asset or a tower equivalent of signal as close to the center of that coverage objective as possible. You can't really, so maybe an analogy, it'd be like if you cut your left elbow and you put the Band-Aid on the right elbow. It's not helping if you are not servicing that specific location. So when we're looking for a tower location, we're going to try to get as close to the center. It's our objective and our charter to get as close to the center of that coverage need as possible. And this site is the closest we could get to the center of that objective.
So you mean your towers only go, what, a half mile? Less than that?
It depends on the height of the tower and the height of the antennas, but the signal will only travel a certain distance. It depends on the tree cover and the topography that impacts the distance that the signal will travel. Trees tend to absorb the signal, so when you're trying to cover an area that's very heavily wooded, the signal does not penetrate those areas unless you're right there on top of the coverage need.
Can I just jump in there for 1 second? Sure. I asked the question at the January meeting about the coverage, and I thought it was a simple question to answer. I got a blank stare. Is this guaranteed to cover the area that is crippled by no cell signal?
Yes.
And if that's the case, so I'm assuming all of these towers have various coverage radiuses because of the elements around them?
Correct. It's like a sprinkler system. If you're sprinkling a piece of flat property, the sprinkler heads can be farther apart. If you're sprinkling areas that have contour, trees, and elevation, you've got to put them closer together to cover the whole thing.
Okay, while I agree with one of the comments, public comments that said, limit this thing to one, I don't want to see 5 or 6 towers going up in the same area because the coverage wasn't ample enough.
Right, and in this case,
But it was good timing.
the lease agreement has an exclusion that doesn't allow other towers to go. Parallel couldn't build another tower on the same property, and actually the code prevents that anyway. But yeah, this location is. It's been a problem for a long time. I worked on this search ring about 10 years ago for another carrier who was having issues here. And it's not a problem that's getting better, it's getting worse as more people use use devices. The morphology of the typical user is changing, as the one respondent mentioned. A lot of people are getting rid of landlines, especially the younger demographic. They're coming in and they're abandoning their landlines and they're only using cell phones. And that becomes a determinant factor in where they buy and whether they're willing to live in a certain area because they depend on it solely.
Right, but so it's like hard to believe in this day and age that one spot is the only spot where you could put a tower and you can't find a more suitable spot, possibly Colo's Farm, as somebody mentioned, or the fire department, as somebody mentioned.
Well, there's another slide that shows the adjacent sites to this area are on that map. The multicolored little triangles that are kind of surrounding this area. Those are existing sites, and you can see that they don't reach down into that area because it's a low spot.
What's the height on that? That site?
The ground elevation?
Because you said it was like in the previous meetings, you said there was like in a hole or a depression that the towers couldn't, because the waves go straight across.
Yeah, so the S curve has a ground elevation of 681 feet AMSL, and the intersection of Parker and Chicago Bloomington Road is at 736. Parker and Chicago Bloomington. I picked 2 intersections, one north and one south, and one was at 736 feet, one was at 747 feet. So it's roughly 50 feet below the surrounding properties, right? 36.
Well, the property at 17239 Parker is at 724.
724.
And that's according to your P1 tower development in Texas.
Yeah, I don't have that number on my notes, so.
I think it was 32.
But there's also, because it's the same longitude in latitude almost in numbers, are you aware of a Mid-America tower that's for lease right in that same area, the ground height of 744?
Well, I know that,
So why couldn't you collate or do something with that?
I know that Horizons RF engineers looked at all the available towers on the. In fact, that was provided as an exhibit to the last planning commission meeting. There were all the towers proximate to this location were they did a coverage prediction based on what they estimated the radio frequency penetration would be, and none of them reached into that area. They tested them all.
Sharon, are you done?
Go ahead.
Am I allowed to chime in on Cono's Farm? Am I allowed to chime in on Cono's Farm? So I run Cono's Farm. I run the businesses and the farming aspect of it. And I had spoke to Mr. Cono, and he said he would be happy to entertain having the tower there if it prevents putting it where it's at. Has that site anywhere on there, if it's taller, however it's got to be, has that been looked into at all to cover this area?
I don't know. No.
So one of my main concerns is if there's another area to put this in where, sort of say, the farmer doesn't really care, and it helps these residents. And here's why, and this is a personal story, that my parents live in Saddlebrook, and there was a cell tower that went up in their backyard, and I remember my father fighting this cell tower. And when he heard about this going on, he called me up and said, "Get your butt over here, we need to talk about this." He said, "Don't you dare put a cell tower where somebody doesn't want it because it happened to him. But when I turned around and I said, but Dad, there's been so many accidents, it's a safety concern, I said, I run Kona's Farm, I hear the accidents that happen. That's my main concern. One question I have for the attorney is, do we have a right legally to turn them down for any reason? I mean, do we have, because, like if I wanted to say, can you entertain a different area?
No. That isn't a sufficient reason under the law to reject or deny a cell tower. The rejection is I think we had a consultant that spoke to the Planning Commission as well, is a rejection or denial has to be based on actual hard evidence, data, evidence, statistics, things of that nature. It can't be based on someone's belief that their property values may go down, or that they don't like the aesthetics of it, or the attitude of, we may have a better place, we think there's a better place as a village board to have that. Ma'am, I'm sorry, the public comment part is over, I'm sorry. But in order to reject it, you need to have some hard evidence, and that wouldn't qualify.
So this is my point, is the residents were saying, we vote you in, we want you to do the right decision. I don't want this there. I'm willing to put up property for this tower to go there, but we don't have a legal right to say no. So we're kind of between a rock and a hard spot when it comes to this.
It's all in the reports that I sent to the last meeting, I read to you this morning, the National Association of Realtors, plus all of these studies are actually documented that talk about property devaluation.
There's hard evidence that it's needed as well. Hard evidence that it's needed as well.
They have sales
hard evidence.
data.
First of all, I think that I understand where you're coming from, but also this wasn't at the Planning Commission. I believe the study you have shown, and I've taken a look at it, was from 2004. Is that correct?
No.
It was a 2004. The Hughes study was a 2004 study. So, and I think that, if there are some more questions, that's the board. We do have a consultant here that.
Could they give us in writing guarantees that our property value won't go down?
It may go up.
Nobody's going to do that. It would be a market.
I didn't mean to cause a debate.
If you have a couple wants to buy your house and they say, well, we have no cell service, so we're going to move on to Frankfurt.
I'm sorry, this isn't a debate in the audience right now. This is what, you came here to put everything forward to us. We've listened to it. The lawyer has really told you, and I do agree, and I feel the same way you do. I wouldn't want it in my backyard. But the problem is, I can't say no. Because by law, if they took us to court, they're going to win. And if we're spending taxpayer money for something we shouldn't be spending it for. I believe.
Approach them. Did Emerson approach them? Because I can't understand how if they looked at the whole area, how their one flat would be the only place a cell tower could go. I don't understand how that could be.
Well, why did I don't either, but I don't put up the towers and I don't know how to read where there's a dead spot or not, but I've been on
So did
many
Emerson
times.
approach them years ago to put up a cell tower?
Well, it does require zoning too, though, and his land is zone is agricultural. You cannot put it onto a residential lot. So if any of the surrounding adjacent properties are residentially zoned, it would be, no matter how big one.
No one came to my property looking. I think they approached the cell phone company, the cell tower.
Well, there still is a possibility that, and we don't know that, but it still doesn't give us the right to say no.
Well, why don't we have a right to make them look into Kona's?
So what I'm asking you, and again, I didn't mean to cause a debate, I just wanted you guys to see how we get torn in two different directions at times. But sir, would you be willing to look at a different property such as Konos? Would that work?
I can't answer that question. This location, like I said, was picked because of its proximity to the coverage objective, and it's been a long process to locate it, engineer it, design it, get it leased. I mean, there's been a lot of time and money invested in this location, and it's the location that Verizon feels best serves their needs. And, as has been mentioned, it does meet all the standards of your special use ordinance. Would the company be willing to abandon all of this time and effort to address a significant public safety need to start over? Not at this point, no.
But you're giving us a lot of statements with nothing to back it up. You're saying you're spending all this money, you did all this investigation. Why would you even do that if you didn't even come to the board and approach us first, or the plan commission? I mean, this process just started a few months ago. So there's a lot of word, you're saying a lot of.
10 years.
Well, that was.
Been going on for over 10 years, so. No, that's what I know.
But what also concerns me though is that the towers are not, if they're under 200 feet, they're not registered and they're not monitored in the U.S. It's FCC does not, they're a regulator, but they don't regulate. So that's a concern. It's like, the same thing. You put a fox in the chicken coop and tell them, don't eat anything. You regulate yourself, correct?
Well, no. The FCC regulates all cell carriers. They're under their jurisdiction, and they are required to follow their rules and regulations in terms of all anything that involves a tower or a broadcast facility. And if you are speaking to, like compliance with RF or emission requirements or something like that, there was a condition, I believe, in the proposed ordinance to require monitoring, which Verizon is more than happy to do. So.
But you're self-monitoring, that's what it is.
Yeah, self-monitoring.
All right, this is what I would suggest.
I just have to talk about trees too.
All right.
Done yet. This 100, why do you need 100 by 100 foot footprint on that property if it goes through? I mean, I've looked at other cell phone towers on Parker everywhere, even with these transformers or these big whatever, these big boxes that they have there, they're not 100 feet by 100 feet. Why such a big area? You're taking out 70 trees. Trees that live near these cell towers are also going to die. There's a 6- and 9-year study about that as well. But I'm curious, why is it such a big area?
That's kind of the pro forma size, the parcel size that the tower development companies ask to lease. It allows them to co-locate numerous other carriers on the tower and give them space to put their equipment on the ground.
Well, there's 3 transformers right off 159th and Parker, and there's nowhere near, and that's a good minimum 150 feet plus, and it's nowhere near 100 feet.
You're talking about a ComEd
No, we're
substation?
talking about cell phone tower.
Cell phone tower. Well, it depends on the amount of space that they lease. Now, I guess the question is, would they be immediately developing the full 100 foot by 100 foot? Probably not. They would probably, initially they would take a smaller footprint out of the lease space and fence and develop that.
But you're taking out the environment to 100 by 100,
Well, you're legally leasing it, but you're not necessarily clearing it and developing it.
All right, Mayor, I'm sorry, just one quick comment. I think I can probably speak for all of us, I don't think any of us ran for village board wanting to approve cell towers, right? This has probably been my least favorite issue I've dealt with in the years I've been here, and this is, I think, no doubt, my least favorite vote. I look at it, we've got 2 choices. Trustee Niski-Trakey echoed one of these. There's I think, an easy political vote here, which would be say no, right? Because I can understand what the residents are saying. And it would be, in my opinion, a political vote only because we've had lengthy conversations with our attorneys on this, and we believe that we don't have legal grounds to deny. And so if we vote to deny, that more than likely puts us in court paying attorneys, which I think y'all agree on our enjoyment of paying attorneys. But we're going to pay attorneys, and we're going to lose the case, and there's going to be a cell tower there. And that is the way that I sort of view the option here. As much as I dislike it, and as much as I think this process, and I made these comments at the last meeting, I think some of the information that's been provided has been lacking. There is no legal grounds that we're aware of to deny this. And so it's as I said, it's my least favorite vote since I've been here, but I also don't see grounds to legally deny, and therefore.
Were we sued 2 years ago when they denied the one on 175th South Parker? Were we sued then?
I wasn't here. I don't know.
Well, it was just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Somebody had to be on the board. Why weren't we sued then when the residents there didn't want it?
I guess maybe they decided not to, but I don't believe that's the case here.
What about somewhere else? Why put it somewhere else?
Certain locations they wanted. The fire department.
Property east of that.
All right, folks, listen up. I'm only gonna say this once. Public comments are over. If you talk out again, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave, all right? I know this is emotional, but this is it. No more public comments.
Mayor, I'd like to also just reiterate what Trustee Rogers has said. This really, for me, comes down to, and several of us, comes down to a life safety issue. A few residents, I know it's easy, not easy, but it's you know, you want to come here and you want to say, not in my backyard, the aesthetics aren't there. The attorneys advised us that, you know, we can't allow that to influence our vote. But it really takes a lot of bravery for some of your neighbors to stand up and say, I want this, we need this, this benefits the community overall. Those people who said that, you know, they're taking actually a harder vote than we are because they live in that neighborhood. They see people all the time over there. But they're also cognizant of the fact that there is a problem there, and this addresses that problem. We've had at the Public Safety and Services, Public Service and Safety Committee, we have all of the fire districts. There's like 4 or 5 of them that represent Homer Glen, as well as the Sheriff's Department and the EMA, and they've all told us they experience drop-off in that area. They've all told us that this will benefit the community from a life safety standpoint. Somebody who has abandoned their landline and is trying to get a call into 911, that call has a better chance of going through. Nothing solves every problem. This might not, you know, tighten up every gap in the system, but it certainly goes a long way toward getting that. It also helps out the 911 operators so that when you do make that 911 call and say you can't communicate, they have a better chance of pinging you and getting your location so that those first responders can get to you faster. The communication devices that we all see the sheriffs and the fire department have on their vehicles, they're all cellular based basically and satellite based. So they are getting updates as they are en route to your location, your situation. They've also told us that Messenger, Glen, whatever, the woods that are there, you know, the kids go camp out and things like that in there, and there's no coverage in that area. If there's an emergency on a trail, I mean, it's going to be hard enough to find them. Imagine now if there's no cell service in that area. I did stand on this property. I looked at it. I walked it. I know several of us have. There's no denying the fact that there are multiple hundreds foot tall high tension towers right there. I looked at it, and I know that the tower, the proposed cell tower, is going to be directly in line with that. So for me, I look at the aesthetic portion of it, and I say, if I've been looking at that, I'm looking at something shorter and in the same sight line. I mean, I have to say, you know, the impact, while I get it that nobody wants more impact, the impact is negligible, I think, because of the very large common easement that runs to the east side of the property. But again, my comment will always be that life safety is going to trump everything. This room is full now, and people are emotional about just having a tower. If we have a fatality in that area that we know we can prevent, this room is going to be really packed, and we know what the outcome of that's going to be. So that's the only comments I want to make here.
So with that being said, is there anyone else who has a comment up here? All right, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was asked by Parallel to respectfully request the additional condition for consideration to be struck from the Plan Commission recommendation.
On the color? On the color?
No, the bottom of page 2 regarding the future public safety use.
Item number 4 in the special use.
The ordinance has 4 conditions to it. Condition number 3 talks about a tree survey and preservation plan, which I believe has already been tendered.
Received it today.
Okay. For provision 4, the condition was staff had indicated to the petitioner, and I spoke with their attorney as well, about the possibility of having a free, if you will, no charge, a spot on the tower for Westcom or 911 or that situation. I was told by their attorney that they couldn't do something free. They would be willing to consider something at a reduced rate if Westcom needs it, but I think it's something that needs to be removed from this ordinance if they're not agreeable to providing that. So.
And Westcom, I think you all got a letter, Westcom said that at this time it's not something that they're needing. It's not what we're talking about as far as the life safety is concerned.
So we would need an amendment to the motion to remove condition number 4 from the ordinance. Did you make the
I'll amend the motion as stated by the village attorney to remove item number 4 from the ordinance.
Did you say that we can't have it on there?
Correct. Legally, we cannot require them to provide us an open spot on the tower. And they're not willing to provide a free spot. They're willing to provide something at a reduced rate and discuss that. But at this point, I think it's improper for us to impose a condition saying you're going to give us a free spot right now.
Right, I mean, could it be amended to say a reduced rate instead of, if he's saying you can do it free.
You want to address that issue?
I know that Parallel will be more than happy to work with whomever wants to occupy space on the tower. But this sort of starts stepping into a business relationship between independent entities, and they would rather kind of address it outside of the ordinance. But you know,
I think it'd be easier just to give it to us free. That way there's no business.
Sure.
Well, I think the ordinance, they have a good neighbor policy.
Yeah, that's right, you haven't been one.
I'm sorry, explain.
Do they have a good neighbor policy like that, either Parallel Infrastructure or Verizon, where they want to help out the local communities by helping to, you know, improve the communications for the first responders?
Yeah, I believe they do. I know that the conversations we've had with them, they were very open to you know, collaborating as much as they possibly could. It was just the condition that you know they were forced to, and that they were forced to do it at no charge.
Yeah, speaking with council, they were very open to that aspect. He just said it can't be free. In terms of a rate, I think it's a little premature. We don't know what that would be.
So why can't the motion be allowable spot with a reduced rate? Because otherwise, if we just say just remove it, well, then we have no chance, even if we all say they'll play nice in the future.
And he can say, may not even need this, he could say, we can put a price on it now, and then you get Westcom to say, well, we don't really see, we don't need it right
Well,
now.
we need
in 10
availability.
years, but they want to have the option to be able to be on there.
I think you could do that with just a caveat that subject to final negotiation.
And final negotiation, I do it with the caveat, the final negotiation and availability for a spot with no rate discussion.
It's also becomes complicated in terms of the physical attachments to the tower. I mean, there are a lot of different considerations in terms of height, in terms of structural capacity, in terms of wind loading, and it's a really complicated question to address because you know it's very possible that you could back somebody into a corner that they have no way out of. You know, there may not be a possibility of putting on the tower when somebody wants to put on it, just due to the structural limitations and the engineering part. So.
or a condition, I think that what we could be looking at is something where a condition that the village be granted the opportunity to negotiate for one of them, negotiate a spot on the tower in the future.
At a later date.
At a later date.
Obviously.
Because you may not, I mean, we're imposing, you're talking about imposing a condition that you may never use.
They never use.
Exactly. And I think that it's kind of, you don't want to overreach on that end.
Well, I don't, and I know I understand his comment about prioritization, if someone comes way ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and from speaking from council, it doesn't seem like this would be necessarily an issue we talked about. If it were to come up, it would be one, it'd probably be one spot. Or we're not looking at the premium spot at the top, we're looking at something lower from that as well. But the big sticking point was free.
I'm fine with not free, but I still amend the motion to allow number 4 to be removed with the condition that we still have potential future opportunity for Westcom's benefit to be able to have a spot at whatever rate they negotiate.
And I think that's reasonable. I mean, I think it's a bit broad there, but I think it accomplishes what you guys want.
And are we sticking with Westcom, or are we?
Or
whoever that person's company is.
Okay, any other questions?
Second.
Second.
Just a clarification that they also, one of the requirements, the recommendations was to have a neutral color. The petitioner is looking for to have that item removed. They want to stick with just the galvanized color.
And I think, Mike, when I was looking at the motion itself, excluded the neutral color.
Okay.
So I think we're okay on that.
Wait, you're saying the motion that we're taking that out now? We're taking out the committees?
The motion
No, it says to exclude the requirement to paint the tower neutral color.
Right here in the box. Why would we exclude that?
There was data that showed that by painting a neutral color and an off color in the fall or winter season, it actually can stand out a little bit more against the sky. So by keeping it, I believe the light,
Galvanized.
the galvanized look, right, it tends to be more neutral year round.
Unfortunately, where we live, we have more gray skies than blue skies, and the galvanized color tends to blend in more with the skyline, and it's also the same color as the comment towers behind it, so it tends to be more invisible actually than if you paint it. In fact, if you look around, back during the initial heyday of, or the beginnings of the wireless industry, when Ameritech was building towers, they were painting them all sky blue to match the sky. And now that when you see those, you're like, oh, there's an Ameritech tower because it jumps out at you, whereas the galvanized finish doesn't.
So we have the first, we have the second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, just vote, please.
Could you, just so we're clear, could you just repeat what Trustee Capito said, just so we make sure we have it for the minutes?
Removing condition number 4 from the ordinance and replacing it with a condition that the village will have an opportunity to negotiate a reduced rate spot on the tower for emergency services.
No matter who the vendor is.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
The second has already been done.
Yeah.
So Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Nancy
Aye.
Varian?
Aye.
Trustee Varian? Sorry. Trustee Sweet?
No.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion carries.
Sorry,
Mayor, before we go on, I'd like to, in lieu of what just happened, I'd like to ask for the board's consensus in directing the village attorney and staff to come up with either an ordinance or language for a resolution where we might consider putting a 3 or 4 month moratorium on any new cell tower applications while we explore having an ordinance that will tighten up our language on our first responders' request to be on these towers.
So if that's a consensus of the board, I'd be happy to put together the ordinance for the next meeting, but I just want to get a flavor for it.
I would be happy with like a 6 month.
I was just gonna say longer.
Yeah, whatever you feel comfortable with on the timeline, but
2 years.
I'm okay with 6 months, amending it to 6 months.
Yep.
Everybody else? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Make sure you keep your thoughts in
All right. Number 3, consider for approval ordinance number 18-020, ordinance approving text amendments to the youth and bulk tables for non-residential district, attachment 2, chapter 220 zoning, and the rules and definitions, article 3 of chapter 220 for the village of Homeland. Discussion. Or no, I need a first. I need a motion and a second. All right, I need a second.
Second.
Discussion.
I do have one discussion, just one discussion. I read through the text amendment earlier today, or the piece that we did, and I was confused by this one. The special permit for the off-track betting, item number A, under 22847, off-track betting associated permitted restaurant. The language that was being offered up as the premises may not include video game facility. To me, that's very confusing. It should not require a video game facility, but not exclude or include, or it shouldn't be required. I said that to VJ earlier, and I think it was just clearing up the language a little bit.
It was just a typo on that.
Oh, okay.
You are correct that we wanted to specify that it wasn't required to have.
It's not required, it's not named.
Correct. It's either or. We're pointing back to the restaurant definition. It happens to be in the gaming area. That's where the confusion is.
That's all I have.
That was my only question too.
Okay, because, yeah, in the email it says clarified, off-track betting may not include a video gaming facility.
Correct. It should say it's not required to have both gaming and video gaming.
Okay.
Apologize.
All right, any other discussion?
I just have one quick question. I was just able to look at this today. Obviously, we all just got this, the updated one. And the only other question I have, I've gone over this several times with Manager Martins and Director Getty. I'm still a little confused, and I'm okay with these definitions now, but we're making definitions for things that we don't have liquor licenses for, like tasting rooms and nightclubs. And I'm still a little confused on why we're doing that. A nightclub is not allowed in the village, basically. You have to have some food component, and we don't have the tasting room. I'm just reading that, and it's talking about the consumption of alcohol, but it makes no reference to food or anything. So this is basically a bar where you can only drink shots. So, and again, it's not that I have anything against a tasting room, but I'm just wondering why we don't have a liquor license classification that backs that up. They're saying we're going to allow something, but as soon as somebody applies for that, they can't. So, and again, those are just little items I'm still a little confused over, and it's not that I'm against a tasting room or a nightclub, it's just a matter of, I want us to define how those things come before us instead of just waiting for somebody to come along and define them to us. So again, I am okay with it, with the tasting room. I like the classification, or the definition of it. It's just a matter of, I'm not really sure where that goes after this.
Everything in the village has to be tied to food.
Or not. I mean, and again, I'm not saying let's open up Pandora's box here, but if we are starting to say that, you know, a tasting room is going to stand alone, if we're not going to tie it back to a restaurant, we're starting to crack open that door a little bit and say, well, maybe there is a little room here. Why don't you come to us and tell us your proposal? And, you know, do we want that? Or do we want to say, let's put a liquor license classification and definition to the use, and those things, you come for us with, you know, both of those things in hand. That's the way I do it. So.
Why do we even have the tasting room in there then? I mean, because, right.
As part of some of these text amendments, what we try to do is go through the APA listing of standardized uses, and we did add some new uses that we don't have terms for, but could possibly come to the area. We can definitely look at the liquor license component to make sure that in those examples that we do have something tied to that. So there are definitely some things that we added into the preventive use schedule that were just absent from the overall listing.
I don't know, I think the definition of it is very confusing as well.
It's still just as vague as everything else was. I mean, we heard a lot of them, but it's still not corrected. I don't want a liquor license.
So maybe it sounds like it's time to table it, to dig into it, so people have more understanding of what you're looking for.
Is there any immediacy to this?
No, this is purely a cleanup to try to clarify some items so we can take another stab at it if you want to table it to the next meeting, or we can verify.
Let's do that.
Well, last time I said we needed a couple of weeks, or more than a couple of weeks, and it's been a couple of weeks. So I say table it for a month. Let's make sure we get it all dialed in, so when it comes before us, we know what we're doing, we get it done correctly. And it's not so vague. Because the phone calls that I got enough stuff, oh my God, the things that people were asking me
About this?
about a bunch of them.
So do we
Yeah, actually,
rescind the motion, or?
Yeah, at our last meeting, it was, we had that as a discussion item, or a workshop item. And we had said, we deferred since trustee Capri and trustee Uri were here.
Right.
So,
hold off until we get back in.
And now, so we brought it back, unfortunately, as an ordinance instead of as a.
Correct.
Another discussion item afterwards, so.
And that's when I started having a lot of women call and ask me questions that I believe was very uncomfortable answering.
They wanted you to tell them that you can open that one by saying we didn't know where you were.
We're just going to go right where it was. My conversation with that. Massage parlor? Massage parlor, where my piercings were.
So yes, we do need to rescind the motion.
Yes.
I will rescind the motion.
Yeah, if we're tabling it, I wouldn't mind running it through the CED.
Sure, we can make some clarifications on both the liquor side as well as the other definitions. I'm sure everyone's comfortable.
Well,
There's
we
not
got to
a
get to CED right away then, because the meeting's coming up in a couple of weeks.
We have a CED meeting in another week and a half that we can present some clarifications.
Who had the second?
Nancy Tracy.
Agreed on the rescission?
Yes.
Then we just need a motion to table.
I have a motion to table this and send it back to CED prior to coming back to us again.
Need a second?
Oh, yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, let's take it. Yeah. Nice to. Consider for approval ordinance number 18-021, an ordinance adopting the budget for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2018, and ending April 30th, 2019. So moved. Trustee Burrian?
Second.
Trustee Rogers, discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Nancy Aye. Trustee Barry?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet? Aye. Trustee Captain?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 5, consider for approval pay estimate number 4 from Pat Nick Construction, Inc. for the 2017 drainage improvement project. Number 2, including work in Woodbine, Meadowview, Chickasaw, Wedgewood Highlands subdivisions, and at the corner of 151st Street and Wilcox Road, in an amount of $18,620.
I so move.
Second,
Second.
Trustee Gray. Discussion.
Director Salmovich, how are we moving along pretty well with that?
Yeah, I mean, the projects with the weather now breaking, we're actually getting some warm weather. The contractor is going to be starting up in some other locations. In the Woodbine subdivision, we were waiting for NICOR to do a relocate for a gas pipeline that was in conflict with the storm sewer. They're anticipated to be done within the next couple of days on that, so the contractor will be getting in there. And then they'll get into some of the other locations where they've got to finish up some of the work and then start the restoration.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions on it? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet? Aye. Trustee Barry?
Aye.
Trustee Nancy? Tracy?
Motion carries. Number 6, consider for approval an intergovernmental agreement between the Homer Community School District 33C and the Village of Homer Glen for the improvement of the Puddings Grove School Park. Trustee Rogers and then Trustee Sweet. Discussion.
I think this is an example, this is something we've been talking about for over a year now. I think it's an example of community working best together. This is multiple facets of government looking to use efficient dollars in building a playground at Puddings Grove School, and I think Puddings Grove PTO deserve a ton of credit on this for sort of shepherding this and working their butts off on bringing this to fruition. The money they raised, private dollars to add into this project, along with the village and 33C. I think this is just an example of when, as I said, various facets working together to build something in the most efficient manner possible for taxpayers. So kudos to the PTO for taking the lead on this, and it was very impressive to watch as this transpired over the last year and a half.
Yeah, they did a great job. The fundraising efforts were just amazing, and they came up with a lot of creative different ways to raise funds for this. So that was, it was just amazing.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Nancy? Aye. Trustee Sweet? Aye. Trustee Barry?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 7, consider a motion to approve the IDOT resolution for maintenance under the Illinois Highway Code for street light maintenance with the Village of Homer Glen.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
What was lines before we went out to bid? Because I know, there was discussion at A&F, and I said put it out to bid. What were they before that?
That's their number, that's going to be the next item, but their number was,
Oh, I'm sorry. I have it up on my screen. Sorry a second. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hold that thought.
Any other comments or concerns? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Nancy? Aye. Trustee Barry?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Motion carries. 8, consider for approval the lowest public bid proposal in the amount of $33,099 from Lions Pinner Electric for street light maintenance within the Village of Homer Glen.
So moved.
Trustee Barry?
I'll second.
Trustee Sweet? Discussion?
I have an odd question. What is it before they were forced to go out to bid?
their price was $35,896.32, which resulted in a $2,797.32 savings.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Well, you're very well prepared to the question.
Great idea.
So, and there's really no change to the terms of the contract, right? They're still going to do all the same services and
Correct.
agreements that they did before, just for a couple
Correct.
$1,000 less.
$2,000.
2,700 and change, yeah. So,
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Gray?
aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Barry?
Aye.
Trustee Nancy?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there any old business? Is there any new business?
George, I do have something in new business. I'm closing on my house on Friday, so I am in the transition of moving. I did purchase a lot in Homer Glen. They did break ground. I do own the lot, and we are currently transitioning to a home in Vermont, which is Western Estates. So I know I talked to everybody individually on this, but I just wanted to let everybody know. my temporary house will be in Lamont, but I will be moving back here sometime in August or September, hopefully, August, September.
And to that, I spoke to trustee about it as well, that the intent, the law looks at the intent of the individual as to whether they intend to remain in Homer Glen, even though it's temporarily in a different city or town, and there's no issue here at all. So just want to make sure all of you are aware of that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other new business? All right, our next is executive session, executive session minutes and pending litigation.
I so move.
Mr. DiCaprio?